The story begins with a heavy realization. The protagonist never imagined it would take 17 long years just to set foot on Korean soil again. Turns sits, dark thoughts, rewinds. Young Dong-woo is consumed by pure desperation, his eyes frantically scanning the chaos for his parents. The storm rages around him, growing more violent with every passing second. He screams into the wind, fighting the merciless sea currents to find his kin. Suddenly, his blood runs cold. He spots two bodies drifting aimlessly in the churning water, pushing through. But as he inspects, refusing to panic, he forces. Shock turns to his gaze. Sinking further into the abyss are the lifeless bodies of both his father and mother. Just as hope fades, a hand grabs him. An old man pulls him up, asking if Dong-woo is all right. Seeing the boy still breathes, the elder asks if he can move. Tears stream down Dong-woo's face, overwhelmed with relief to see that his grandfather is still alive. Seok-ho grimaces, muttering that it seems the heavens have not completely abandoned them just yet. The protagonist cries out that his parents are still below them. His grandfather's expression darkens. He knows, but he also knows there is absolutely nothing they can do. He grips his grandson's shoulders, demanding he engrave these next words into his soul. No matter what happens, the boy must survive to inherit the Cheon-woo Group. The old man presses a pen into Dong-woo's trembling hand. He instructs him to take it to Lawyer Kim. That man will know exactly how to save him. His final orders are absolute. Trust no one, return to Korea as fast as possible, and find the lawyer. Despite the commands, the protagonist weeps, begging his grandfather to go back and save his father and mother. Ignoring the pleas, the old man begins removing his own life vest. The boy watches in confusion, unable to comprehend his grandfather's intentions. In a shocking move, the elder secures the vest around the child. He reveals the grim truth. His parents did not drown. They were executed before the ship even began to sink. Inflating the vest, Seok-ho commands Dong-woo to survive at all costs. With a final look of determination, the man pushes his grandson away just as a colossal wave swallows them whole. Lightning tears through the sky as the storm rages on. But eventually, the chaos fades, replaced by an agonizingly peaceful silence. The boy drifts alone on the vast ocean. He peels his eyes open, his body broken and utterly exhausted. He is left speechless as a massive shadow falls over him, blotting out the bright sun above. Looming over him is a gigantic cargo ship passing through the waters. High above, a silhouette smiles, their face obscured by the blinding light. Dong-woo is terrified and confused after being hauled onto the deck. Two guards armed with heavy rifles look down at him, shocked that a child could survive such conditions. One guard starts shouting for his boss, announcing the boy is alive. Hearing the foreign tongue, the protagonist realizes with a start that these men are Italian. The man continues barking into his radio, trying to reach his superior. Someone answers the call, while the guards grumble about their boss's presence. The chubby guard leans in, asking if the kid can understand a word they are saying. However, Dong-woo's eyes lock onto a distinct tattoo inked onto the man's neck. The protagonist instantly realizes the danger. Between the tattoos and the military-grade weapons, these are not ordinary sailors. Suddenly, the group's leader leaps down from the upper deck. With a heavy thud, the woman lands directly in front of the boy. She glares at him, demanding to know how a rat like him ended up on her ship. Her subordinate warns that the brat probably does not speak their language. Annoyed, she snaps her fingers, ordering someone to fetch a translator immediately. Dong-woo just stares at them, trembling slightly, unsure of how to navigate this lethal situation. But then, he shocks them all, speaking in flawless Italian. He claims he was on a yacht that was attacked nearby. The woman raises an eyebrow, asking where this impressive child came from. He explains that he is Korean. He tells her that during the storm, his family's ship was boarded by armed mercenaries who slaughtered his parents and grandfather. The boss smirks. She informs him that after his tragic shipwreck, fate has dumped him onto a vessel belonging to the Salerno family. Confused, the boy tilts his head, wondering what exactly the Salerno family is. She bursts into laughter at the absurdity of it all. An Asian child, speaking perfect Italian, drifting in the Gulf of Aden in the Middle East. It sounds like a bad joke. Her expression shifts instantly. Pulling out a gleaming combat knife, she sighs that it is a shame, but she does not buy his story. Pointing the blade at the boy's throat, Regina asks for one good reason why she shouldn't toss him back into the sharks. The boy freezes, his mind racing. He has no idea what to say to save his own life. Sweat beads on his forehead, nervous but desperate. He scrambles to come up with a lie before the cold steel pierces his skin. Tae-Ha revealed the pen, a precious heirloom from his grandfather. He declared his true lineage, the grandson of Seok-ho, chairman of the Cheon-woo Group, and the son of Seo-yup, the chairman's third heir. He bargained for his life, desperate and sharp. Instead of feeding him to the sharks, they could leverage his bloodline to extract a massive fortune from his family. Regina's eyes narrowed in annoyance. The Cheon-woo Group. A quick search silenced her doubts. It was the undisputed apex predator of South Korea's economy. And this trembling brat was direct royalty within that empire. Her interest piqued. The commander barked orders to her subordinates. Scour the Korean news feed immediately. Find me everything. While the crew hunted for intel, she grilled the boy on his utility. He rattled off a list of tongues: Cantonese, English, Japanese, Arabic, Spanish, Hindi, and even Esperanto. He claimed enough fluency to hold his own in any conversation. A true prodigy of the elite. "Boss, got a hit from Korea," one mercenary shouted. Regina's lips curled into a predatory smile. Things just got interesting. She gave him a chance, handing him the comms. "If you want to reach out to your people, go ahead. Make the call." Tae-Ha hesitated, recalling his grandfather's secret instruction. Trust only lawyer Kim. He told Regina he needed to contact an outsider, avoiding the vipers in his own family. It was 1:12 in the morning when the line finally connected. A groggy voice answered. "Who is this?" The caller spoke strictly in English, signaling an international emergency. "I am calling from overseas. Are you lawyer Kim?" Regina took over, her voice dripping with leverage. "I sent you a photo. You know I have the Golden Prince with me. Do you want him shipped back to Korea?" The old lawyer played coy on the other end. "What exactly are you implying by that?" She cut to the chase. $10 million. "Meet us at the Panama Canal for the exchange, and you get the boy." "I'm too busy for negotiations," the lawyer scoffed. He set down his drink and grabbed a karaoke microphone, making a ruthless counteroffer. $1 million. He cursed casually, his tone shifting from negotiator to executioner. $1 million is all you get. Take it or leave it. Swaying to the music in a club, he delivered the death sentence. $1 million to put a bullet in his head. Send me video proof in 5 minutes, or the deal is off. Regina raised an eyebrow, testing him. "And what happens if I do the deed and you don't pay up?" The room fell silent. The lawyer laughed. "For chump change like that? I only need to tap my screen 3 times to transfer it." Then came the threat. "Refuse, and I'll leak intel to the press that your crew was behind the recent terror attacks." He hung up and turned to his superior, a devilish grin on his face. "Relax. I've already hired mercenaries nearby to clean up the mess. The Cheon-woo Group is finally ours." Tae-Ha froze, his blood running cold. The man he trusted wanted him dead in less than 300 seconds. Regina sighed, checking her weapon. "Welcome to the real world, kid. My reason to keep you breathing just vanished." Terror seized him. Tae-Ha fell to his knees, begging them not to end his life. "You're not a chaotic heir anymore," Regina sneered. "They're probably already picking out your casket." She looked down at him with cold pity. "Do you know what that means? In my world, people snuff out lives to steal assets. It's just business." Tears streamed down his face. He screamed into the void, unable to grasp why his own flesh and blood would slaughter his entire family. The guards whispered in the background, "She won't actually do it. She's just toying with the prey." Tae-Ha trembled violently. He had survived the merciless ocean, only to be butchered by strangers for a check he couldn't cash. Was the Cheon-woo throne really worth this much blood? Was it worth the lives of his mother, father, and grandfather? Suddenly, a mercenary burst into the room. "Commander, we're under attack." 3 patrol ships and a heavy military chopper just appeared. Regina grabbed her gear. "Interpol?" "No, they're ignoring all radio transmissions." Confusion flashed across Regina's face. Who would dare strike them out here? It was suicide to attack her unit head-on. Someone truly crazy was knocking at their door. She glared at the child, the realization hitting her. The Koreans had sent a hit squad to finish the job. But in that moment of chaos, Tae-Ha slammed the pen into his own hand. Blood sprayed, shocking the room. Through gritted teeth, the boy hissed, "The Cheon-woo Group will never pay you. And you gain absolutely nothing by handing my corpse to them." The leader of the Salerno family paused, intrigued by the child's ferocity. Tae-Ha looked her in the eye. "Let me join you. Help me get revenge, and I will be your loyal dog for life." A flicker of surprise crossed her face. How did a sheltered rich kid recognize the Salerno insignia? Regina burst into manic laughter, the thrill of the game taking over. "Mateo, gear up. The real show is just starting." She loomed over the bleeding boy. "Do you understand the weight of your words? The path of revenge is paved with blood. Are you ready to stain your soul?" Tae-Ha's mind flashed back to his grandfather's command. Inherit Cheon-woo, no matter the cost. His eyes burned with newfound resolve as he nodded. Regina grinned. "Good. Barking dogs rarely bite. Let's teach you how to hunt." Yet, even amidst the chaos, a spark of intrigue ignited in the darkness. The deranged woman, he must 17, but he dives to mercenary. The security manager, a subordinate signals to the manager they have located the target vehicle. The moment the manager roared, Tae-Ha has dismantled them all in a single breath. The manager spots a shallow cut on his own waist. Death had missed him by an inch. Trembling, "Don't think," he strikes from behind, a devastating slash that cleaves the man in two from head to groin. The attack is absolute. As his body collapses, the man's fading mind cannot comprehend the monster before him. He dies wondering how such power is even possible. He curses. He calmly wipes the blood from his daggers and strolls toward the luxury car. Grabbing a bag from the back seat, he pops the trunk to reveal the terrifying sight of the director. The man begs Tae-Ha for mercy, claiming he was just a puppet following orders. Tae-Ha flicks a lighter open, the flame dancing in his eyes. "Because I died that day." He tossed Tae-Ha, lighting a cigarette. Amidst the urban sprawl, a modern skyscraper guards it, but the madman silences them before they can blink. Two bodies hit the floor, yet Tae-Ha doesn't even break his stride. He walks calmly through the hall as panic spreads. A staff member cowers on the floor, trembling at the violence. Terrified, he asks who sent this monster. He warns that they are part of the Cheon-woo Group, and Tae-Ha will never be safe after this. Tae-Ha you kidnap. In the back, the binding. The old man scrambles up, running to return the knife to Tae-Ha. With tearful eyes, they thank their savior and flee into the night. Suddenly, the obese boss glares at Tae-Ha, demanding his identity. "Are you from the main family?" he asks, sweat beading on his forehead. Tae-Ha slowly, but Tae-Yan. Outside, the city reveals its rot. Homeless souls crowd the stairs, forgotten by the world passing them by. The heat is suffocating, intense enough to leave a cicada dead on the pavement. A heavy silence hangs in the air, broken only by the hurried steps of a passerby. Tae-Yan moves through the stifle. A cigar is too conspicuous here. He wonders if he should switch to local Korean cigarettes to blend in. The avenue pulses with life. He is finally back on Korean soil. On the surface, it looks normal, but the cracks are starting to show. Predator on a massive how by the cold since that the Cheon they sedated, yet the clerk welcomes him. They lock eyes. What are the odds? Irritated by the coincidence, Tae-Yan decides to shift his choice. Make it a tension spikes. They glare at each other suspiciously. The clerk awkwardly breaks the silence, admitting there is only one pack left. Tae-Yan, give it to. Moments later, Tae-Yan, the man, as they walk. The stranger. Tae-Yan walks away, hoping their paths never cross again. But fate has other plans. Later, that same man arrives at a grim destination, the site of Tae-Yan's earlier massacre. He kneels. He snuck the boss and cancel the appointment. He advises coldly. The ghost who butchered Director Kim might be coming for you next. He refused. The enforcer pauses, his mind racing. The clean cuts on the bodies trigger a sudden memory. The guy at he confirmed. The enforcer hangs up. He is heading to the meeting, but his gut screams danger. He orders security to be doubled immediately. Something is coming. Annoyed, the man scoffs into the phone, barely listening to his boss's excuses. Passing the device to a subordinate, he mutters under his breath, dismissing the lunatic on the other end as nothing more than a glorified gangster who still thinks he has the right to give orders. Straightening his, stepping back on but the voice on the, he explains the new terms calmly. They offered him another 100 million for the job. Only a complete idiot would turn down that kind of cash. Rumor has, one cuts the call. Tae-Ha steps in, a grin. First, Tae-Ha walks, his eye, one tilts in a blur of motion. Tae-Ha draws twin daggers from his back. Sparks fly as his blades crash against Wan's weapon in a thunderous impact. The two combatants lock eyes, measuring the lethal intent of their opponent. Then, the air explodes as a frenzied exchange of blows begins. Wan launches, snap, to his absolute shock. His weapon is sliced cleanly into pieces. Staring at the broken handle, the gangster can't even comprehend when the cut occurred. But the horror is just starting. Tae-Ha vanishes from sight in the blink of an eye. Panic floods Wan's chest as he realizes the tables have turned. The positions have flipped instantly. Now, the protagonist is the one airborne, poised to deliver the finishing blow to the battle. Fear flickers in Wan's eyes for the first time. He realizes too late that he and the Cheon-woo Group have provoked a true monster this time. Wondering how they became targets of such a demon, he watches Tae-Ha descend, blades ready. Weaponless and exposed, Hwan is defenseless. The blow connects. Hwan is slammed into the pavement with bone-shaking force. The fight is over in an instant, and Tae-Ha is already preparing to leave. Wiping the excess blood from his blade, the protagonist turns toward the alley exit, leaving Hwan's battered body crumpled on the ground. But to his, he asks, sheathing his daggers. Tae-Ha speaks with icy calm. He has his own code. If Hwan were a full member of the Cheon-woo Group, he would already be a corpse. He warns, beside, lying broke. Moments later, a car tears down the street, engine roaring. Tae-Ha is gritting. Suddenly, the memory plays. His mother scoops Tae-Ha up, desperate to escape. Suddenly, the entire ship lurches violently. The explosion is so massive, even the assassins struggle to stay standing. Dragging him to the deck, his mother pushes him outside the door. She commands her son to find a life vest and jump into the dark water immediately. With a heartbreaking smile, Ha-young tells him he must survive, no matter what. Behind them, an assassin complains, annoyed that the bombs were detonated before they finished killing everyone. The man's Ha-young screams. He runs until his lungs burst. Following the first explosion, the yacht is already engulfed in flames. Then, a second bomb detonates. The ship groans and begins to sink rapidly into the abyss. Back to the present, deep within the shadows of Gangbook's secret annex. The atmosphere is suffocating as the CEO of the Cheon-woo Group breaks the silence. He demands to know if Director Kim's executioner has been found, but Jong-won dismisses it casually, claiming it was merely a messy crime of passion. After all, the late director was juggling to secret mistresses. His sister scoffs in disgust, calling the whole affair repulsive. Jong-won smirks, noting the irony coming from a woman with her own harem of lovers. But he quickly pivots back to business. He demands the details on Kim's shares, insisting on an immediate announcement. Suddenly, bang! A hand slams onto the table, shattering the tension. Silence falls over the room. The chairman, Gu-ho, narrows his eyes and commands his son to speak up. Chang-il reports that 2 low-level employees were at the scene, but they were useless, so he cut them loose without a second thought. 0 witnesses, since they were just expendable subcontractors. The police buried the incident before it could ever leak to the public. The report isn't enough. Without warning, his father launches a wine glass straight at Chang-il's head. Shards fly as the table freezes in shock. The old man roars, demanding the location of the Ouyang gang. Chang-il's jaw tightens in visible irritation. Yet, he forces a smirk. He claims the gang is clueless, noting they even sent a woman. Their 7th seat just to clean up the mess. That answer earns him another blow. The old man smashes a full bottle directly onto his son's skull. 24 hours have passed, and the killer is still a ghost. Instead of a head on a platter, Chang-il brings him worthless gossip about a gang. He spits that if the former chairman and Seo-yup hadn't died 17 years ago, an incompetent fool like Chang-il would never be sitting at this table. Red wine mixes with fresh blood, masking Chang-il's face in a gruesome crimson mask. Unfazed, Chang-il vows to hunt the killer down within 12 hours. The family looks on, unsettled by the realization that this brutal dynamic hasn't changed a bit. Jua whispers, asking why the chairman treats his eldest so ruthlessly. He is, after all, the firstborn heir. Her brother corrects her coldly. It's not hate driving the old man, it's pure, unadulterated fear. Meanwhile, Chang-il wipes the blood from his eyes and demands his phone. As he cleans the gore from his face, he scrolls through his contacts. He barks a single question: "Where are my men?" His assistant confirms they are primed and ready. A twisted grin spreads across Chang-il's face. He can't wait to see how explosive this entrance will be. Night falls on the highway. Tae tears down the asphalt, his eyes locked on the horizon. He admits he's been watching the Cheon-woo Group for a long time. It takes him back 17 years, to the very day he was inducted into the Seo-no family. Even before his grandfather's body was cold, Gu-ho seized the throne. Snatching every share and claiming the chairman's seat for himself, he exploited the chaos of the failed crime war, forging dark alliances with factions like the Ouyang gang to cement his tyranny. A twisted mockery of tradition, dating back to the days when Tae's grandfather still ruled the underworld. But make no mistake, neither the corrupt system nor their bloody rituals have changed. Every soul at that table climbed a mountain of corpses to get there, willing to slaughter their own kin for power. Inside the security room, a guard squints at a monitor. He notices a vehicle approaching and asks if guests were expected. The answer is a sharp negative. Panic sets in. The car is barreling straight for the main gates, and it's showing zero signs of slowing down. Assuming it's a suicide run, the head of security screams for the barriers. Steel stakes shoot up from the ground to crush the intruder. But Tae doesn't flinch. Instead of braking, he slams the accelerator to the floor. He needs no cheap tricks, not when he's coming for cowards who have hidden behind walls their entire lives. Tae unbuckles his seatbelt, abandoning all caution. Metal screams as the car smashes into the barricade, the front end crumpling like paper. From the wreckage, a shadow leaps out, blade already drawn. He has only one wish, that they remember the family they destroyed. Because tonight, he's going to carve that memory into their flesh. The security team freezes, terror gripping their hearts as they see him. In a single, blinding flash of steel, Tae decimates the entire squad. He stands amidst the bodies and declares his return. Inside, the noise startles the family. They look around in confusion. The roar of destruction is getting louder, rapidly closing in from the front gate. Chang-il looks puzzled, yet a strange confidence remains in his eyes. His uncle orders a subordinate to investigate the chaos, but Chang-il intervenes, his voice chillingly calm. There's no need for that. Suddenly, the betrayal is revealed. The guards in the hall turn their guns, aiming not at the door, but at the family members. The eldest sister screams in confusion. Gu-ho barks in fury, thinking it's a sick joke. But his son simply stands up, wiping the last of the blood from his lips. The chairman stares at his son, realization dawning. Chang-il smiles wickedly, claiming his father always knew this day would come. That was the source of the old man's rage. He wasn't disappointed, he was terrified that his son would follow in his grandfather's footsteps. With the eyes of a lunatic, Chang-il drops the bombshell. The one who slaughtered his grandfather and uncle 17 years ago was him. Meanwhile, the massive gates loomed ahead. The protagonist stepped onto the forbidden grounds, his voice dripping with icy resolve. The moment of vengeance had finally arrived. The guards panicked, leveling their weapons at the intruders. Confusion reigned as they shouted, demanding to know if this was an ambush. Inside the hall, Jeong stared at his nephew in disbelief. Was the boy insane? He screamed, questioning how Chong dared to point a blade at his own flesh and blood. Chong stood motionless, claiming innocence with a twisted smile, but the family didn't buy it. Their curses filled the air, the intent behind his silence all too clear. Ji turned to her guard, eyes wide with shock. Was he really throwing away his loyalty for this brat? Yaman, her personal shield, bowed his head, With a cold apology, he made his choice clear. He was abandoning her. The second son's guard shrugged, his voice void of emotion. It wasn't personal. The price for betrayal was simply too high to refuse. Another guard scoffed, muttering that a simple raise might have prevented this entire bloodbath. Only Chong's bodyguard remained silent as the grave. His father looked on, understanding the greed of strangers, but baffled by his own son's treachery. He turned to his own protector, voice trembling. Would his most trusted shield really turn its back on him now? Jun-woo watched, statue still. His answer was cold and transactional. He wasn't paid to protect a person, but to serve the winning faction. John sneered at the traitorous guards, asking if they truly believed they would profit from this treason. He tried to spit threats, but cold steel pressed against his temple. Without hesitation, his own bodyguard pulled the trigger, executed in cold blood. Despair swallowed the remaining brothers. They fell to their knees, begging for mercy, but only the roar of gunfire answered them. Blood painted the hall in a gruesome display. Chong wiped his hands, tossing the cloth to a subordinate. He walked toward his father with the calm stride of a predator. The old man sighed, the weight of 17 years crushing him. He had expected this since the day his other son died of leukemia, and his wife demanded a divorce without taking a penny. Trembling with suppressed rage, the patriarch finally confessed. He had always suspected Chong was the puppet master behind every shadow. That was why he had kept the boy at arm's length all these years. Chong spun the gun around his finger, a mocking grin on his face. For a man who ordered the hit on his own kin, Guvo certainly talked too much. He pressed the muzzle against the old man's forehead, who sent his father and brother to a watery grave. If Chong hadn't struck first, he would have been the one in the coffin. The atmosphere turned heavy, suffocating under the weight of sins. Soo-yuk's son would have taken the throne, and Chong would have been dust. The psychopath leaned in, whispering, why did his father never name him the heir? Terror clawed at the old man's heart as he stared into the eyes of a monster. Chong's gaze was heavy with murderous intent. Guvo stammered that if he had made him heir, the boy would have killed him even sooner. His father hissed a final curse. Even if he pulled the trigger now, he would never sit on the chairman's seat. But Chong cut him off. He knew the rules. Power seized by blood isn't recognized by the committee. It was a pity, really. He smirked, revealing the truth. The chaos outside, that wasn't his doing. The president's eyes widened in confusion. Who else could it be? Bang! As the bullet pierced his father, Chong whispered the answer. It was a young master who had waited 17 years for this very moment. Outside, bullets rained down on the intruder. The guards tried to swarm him, seeing he carried no gun. But Tae-Ha knew the score. These were the Central Security Forces, the elites protecting the executives. They were on a different level from the trash he fought at the gate. He paused his sprint, shifting his weight. For him, this difference in power meant absolutely nothing. He launched himself forward, weaving in a blur of zigzag movements to evade the hail of lead. He grabbed a guard, using him as a meat shield. The man screamed, begging his comrades to hold their fire. But mercy was dead. The guards opened fire, shredding their own ally. One security agent froze in terror as his weapon was sliced cleanly into. In a flash, Tae-Ha dismantled the squad. The squad leader panicked, screaming for them to evacuate the president immediately. Tae-Ha hurled his dagger with lethal precision, but at the last second, a guard stepped in, intercepting the blade. A man with glasses adjusted his frames, annoyed. Why all the noise? Couldn't they handle a rat quietly? 3 department heads emerged to block the path. Tae-Ha ignored the small fry, slaughtering the remaining grunts without breaking stride. One of the elites stepped forward. He arrogantly told his comrades to stand back. He would handle this trash alone. But Tae-Ha was slowing down. Despite his monstrous strength, the wound from earlier was taking its toll. Blood loss was draining his stamina by the second. Suddenly, he snapped back to reality. A fist was inches from his face. He barely managed to block. The impact sent him flying backward. He scrambled to regain his footing, but a massive shadow loomed over him. The man sneered, asking how a brat dared to attack their sanctuary. And then, making matters worse, his concentration slips while invading hostile territory. But Tae-Ha refuses to falter, ignoring his screaming wounds. He launches a lethal strike directly at the man's chest. The sheer speed leaves the remaining guards frozen in terror. Without missing a beat, Tae-Ha hurls his remaining dagger at the survivors. Their arrogance evaporates instantly, replaced by cold fear. To their shock, the blade finds its mark. The very guard who blocked his ranged attacks earlier now crumbles. Sholo's eyes can't even track the movement. Snatching a fallen knife mid-stride, Tae-Ha executes a brutal slash, claiming the head of the final squad leader. Just like that, the perimeter is silenced. Every single outside guard lies defeated. Walking toward the entrance, he spots his blade embedded in a corpse. He retrieves it calmly, moving as if he owns the place. He wipes the thick blood from the steel. It took longer than planned, but now, the silence is deafening. It's too quiet. Did they flee through a secret passage? Unknown dangers surely await him, but the boy steps into the mansion's darkness without hesitation. He kicks open the main doors. A gruesome sight welcomes him, bodies everywhere. Yet, amidst the sea of blood, Cheon sits calmly on the throne, waiting. The man smiles, congratulating him on surviving the slaughter outside. He gestures to a chair, mocking, "Why not sit? You look like you need a rest." Tae-Ha freezes. The scene before him defies all logic. This wasn't part of the plan. His eyes lock onto Jong's corpse, a clean bullet hole through the forehead. His aunt, Ju-yi, lies beside him, executed in cold blood. Even John met the same gruesome end. And there, slumped over, is the current president. No one was spared. His cousin rises from the blood-soaked floor. "You look better than I expected," he sneers. Though modern assassins really should take better care of their skin. Cheon tilts his head. "Do you even recognize me?" Tae-Ha's voice is ice cold as he speaks the man's name, identifying him as Gu's eldest son. The madman bursts into laughter. "I don't remember us being close enough for you to call my father by his first name." Tae-Ha doesn't take the bait. He watches the man's erratic behavior, his instinct screaming that something is wrong. "I stayed behind," the cousin smirks, "because leaving without a greeting would be rude. Besides, I have a few things to clarify. But if you won't sit, standing is fine." He shrugs. "This won't take long anyway." Cheon's eyes narrow. "Do you remember that day, 17 years ago, when the Italian Mafia saved you?" Suddenly, his bodyguard interrupts. "Sir, the helicopter is ready." "We need to move now," the guard insists, clearly on edge. "It's too dangerous to linger here." Cheon glares, annoyance flashing across his face. "I told you to interrupt only when I was finished talking." But Tae-Ha isn't listening to the words, he's listening to the voice. His eyes widen in shock. It's him, the voice of the monster who slaughtered his family 17 years ago. The memory hits him like a truck, a masked figure pointing a rifle, laughing maniacally as explosions tore his world apart too early. Fury explodes in Tae-Ha's chest. "It was you," he growls, trembling with rage. "You were that worm." The madman stifles a giggle, looking down on him. "There's nothing left to say. And stop speaking so casually to your betters." His eyes darken. "It really makes me want to kill you right now." Tae-Ha charges forward. "Try it," he screams. "My goal was always to wipe out your entire bloodline." But his cousin just tuts. "Haven't you heard? When in Korea, do as the Koreans do." "Fix your tone, boy." Tae-Ha grits his teeth, mind racing. Cheon knows everything. He knows he survived 17 years ago. And he knows about his life as a Salerno assassin. But why wait? Why let 17 years pass only to make a move the moment Tae-Ha returned? Cheon snaps his fingers, demanding attention. "Listen closely," he grins. "The real show is just starting." The truth hits Tae-Ha like a lightning bolt. This isn't just a coup. Cheon intends to frame him for this massacre. By pinning the attack on Tae-Ha, Cheon can seize the presidency unopposed. Before Tae-Ha can react, the bodyguard steps in. "Young master, no need for introductions." Tae-Ha raises his bloodied dagger, but the bodyguard is faster. Gunfire erupts instantly. Unbelievable skill. Tae-Ha deflects the bullets with his blade, redirecting the projectiles as he closes the distance in a blur of speed. Bam! Out of nowhere, a second guard lands a devastating blow. Tae-Ha sensed the presence, but the speed was impossible to predict. This one is different. The man smirks, introducing himself with chilling confidence. I am Juno Park. Refusing to be cornered, the young master backflips away, creating distance. He lands softly, staring down his lethal new opponents. Juno opens fire again, laughing. You're faster than the rumors said. You could dominate track and field if you gave up killing. His partner moves to cut off Tae-Ha's escape route. The air is thick with tension. Even the guards seem nervous about this fight. Is flexibility your secret? Juno taunts, launching a frantic, high-speed barrage of attacks that pushes Tae-Ha to his limit. Tae-Ha realizes the grim reality. These aren't like the trash he slaughtered outside. These are true elites. If he were at full strength, they would be dead already. But with his wounds, he spots Cheon watching, guard down. This is his only chance. He has to end this before the monster known as Jong-su arrives. Logic dictated that if the woman beside him was indeed Dean, the math didn't add up. There were only 3 guards stationed in the room, yet 4 members had attended the meeting. Something was wrong. Suddenly, his train of thought is severed. Juno launches a surprise attack, but Tae-Ha spots it. A reflection in the enemy's pupil reveals the 4th presence. Yaman was lurking in the blind spot, blade raised for a backstab. But in a blur of motion, Tae-Ha vanishes, leaving the 2 guards striking nothing but air. Their minds can't even process the speed. Crouched on the floor, the protagonist realizes the layout. This hidden striker must be the final piece of the puzzle. The ambush fails miserably. The hidden guard curses, shifting the blame onto Juno for ruining the setup. But his partner snaps back. If killing this boy were easy, he'd be a corpse already. Jong-yu reloads his firearms, drooling over the massive bounty placed on Tae-Ha's head. Greed overpowers fear. Both Jong-yu and the bespectacled guard unleash a hail of bullets and attacks at the assassin. Watching the chaos, Cheon comments on the spectacle, noting how difficult it is to track a battle that seamlessly blends gunfire with close quarters combat. These men were trained specifically to counter him. The rumors of Tae-Ha's inhuman velocity had already terrified the ranks of Interpol. Cheon admits he considered just blowing him up with a bomb, but a warrior's death in battle would bring far greater glory to his own reputation. Juno steps in to cut off the escape route, positioning himself directly in front of the boy to block his path. Jong-yu sneers, claiming speed is irrelevant now. Tae-Ha has been cornered like a rat in a trap. It's over. The guard lunges with brass knuckles, aiming to crush the boy's skull. But the protagonist does nothing. He simply watches the fist approach with cold, dead eyes. His cousin thanks him for the entertainment with a malevolent grin. The fist connects. Tae-Ha is sent flying, slamming into the wall with enough force to crack the concrete foundation. Flashback to 4 years ago. Regina was screaming at him, demanding to know what the hell he had done. She had ordered him to handle the traitor, not paint the walls with him. The scene was so gruesome that even she, a hardened killer, began to vomit. Her voice cracked with fury. With his godlike speed, he could have ended it silently. Why make such a mess? She tries to reason with him, recalling the day they saved him. She knows he loved Lorenzo, and seeing a traitor sparks rage. But butchery like this, killing in such a brutal fashion, will only ignite a never-ending cycle of thirst for revenge. As his mentor, and the voice of the Salerno family, Regina begs him to never repeat this horror. But Tae-Ha stood there, neither happy nor remorseful. He simply states that this is the only way. People forget silence. They never forget horror. Confused, Regina asks for an explanation. Tae-Ha explains coldly, if traitors die quietly, there is no lesson. Everyone must see the carnage that awaits those who betray the family. The rumors must spread. They must be exaggerated, distorted, and terrifying. Only fear will reduce the number of traitors. Otherwise, they will be fighting this battle for eternity. Regina, she calls it, she sighs. Juno frees the protagonist. Terror as his life fades. It wasn't even while suddenly, Tae-Ha realizes his cousin is Cheon peeks his head out, panic finally setting in. Tae-Ha roars with uncontrollable rage, demanding to know where he thinks he's going. The hunt isn't over, but Tae-Ha is shocked the president's personal bodyguard has arrived. Undeterred, he wins the impact, crushing with a thunderous his pristine, trembling, left behind. They reach the man, Jun-su, the bodyguard, but the psychopath, a twisted, he spits out insults about his hypocritical family, calling them annoying pests. Jun-su and the bodyguard exchange uneasy glances. Suddenly, living only the detonator inside through the no, he tosses the detonator aside casually. He remarks that they certainly know how to wrap things up with a bang. The heat is in just as the guards scramble in panic, furious and bleeding. The cousin looks down at the man hanging from his leg. He calls him a filthy insect, demanding to know why he won't die. Gritting his gravity, blood sprays into the wind. Tae-Ha swears he will kill him no matter the cost. The female guard, Diane, draws her weapon, begging her master to step back, but the lunatic is possessed by rage. He snatches the pistol from her hands. He will finish this himself. He levels the gun. The helicopter. Tae-Ha falls. He slams into the mansion's outer wall with a sickening crack. His body bounces off and lands in the back of a passing truck near the stream. Alone, fate is truly mysterious. It's one of the victims Tae-Ha had rescued from the security company. The man gasps, recognizing his savior immediately. Seeing the blood and broken limbs, he fears the worst. Is he too late? But then, a faint whisper. He leans closer. Tae-Ha is barely holding onto consciousness, clinging to life by a thread. He is begging for help. Even with his meanwhile, the message is a mysterious. The broker asks the buyer, "Are the voice and name clear enough for you?" The buyer asks for the target's current location. The young informant replies quickly. He's likely. The buyer hesitates. The informant makes an offer, 200. A small price to catch a big fish from the majority party, right? Silence. The typing bubble pulses for an agonizingly long time. Then, the reply hits, 30. The informant is insulted. He furiously types back, claiming this intel is worth far more than mere pocket change. But the informant, but if the intel was related to, after some time he was gearing, the owner was already bustling about, prepping for the lunch rush. The woman shot him a warning look, chiding that he would be dead late if he lingered there any longer. The boy brushed, however, that a thug strutted in, declaring the owner better sell the place before they stopped being polite. The gangster, Baek-soo, turned his gaze to the boy, asking if he didn't agree. The lady, she turned to the, even though grabbing a knife, clear, she retorted that, exhausted from the constant pressure, he let out a heavy sigh, uncertain of his next move in this suffocating city. He admitted, with violent people like him, still, a customer she forced, the boy obeyed, but once out of sight, he angrily hurled his bag aside. The rage was boiling over. Frustrated, she was once, none of this was her fault. Information on someone from the Cheon-woo Group was worth 1,000 times the normal rate. With trembling fingers, the boy messaged him again. The broker replied instantly, asking if he had acquired the goods. Nerves racked his body, but the boy spilled everything. He sent incriminating photos proving that Ju Hyuk, a security guard for Cheon-woo's directors, was sleeping with Miho, the infamous leader of the ladies. Heart pounding against his ribs, he waited in fear for the buyer's response. Confused, the broker asked what a kid wanted with that info. But the promise of high value quickly refreshed his memory. The next day broke with a deceptively sunny Saturday morning. Men in sharp suits approached him on the street, asking if he went by the name Gray. He confirmed it, but the moment he looked back, he knew he had made a fatal mistake. A fist buried itself in his gut, knocking the wind out of him. His vision went black as they dragged him into a waiting van. As he was hauled away, Gray finally understood why the bounty was so high. He wasn't the seller, he was just the bait. The boy found himself bound to a chair inside the security company's office. The leader sneered, admitting he thought Gray was just an annoying rat. But the kid was actually skilled. He demanded to know the source of the images, wondering if Gray's father had hidden a stash of evidence before he died. The boss leaned in, asking if the brat was really the son of Jin-Gu, one of the whistleblowers who reported the Cheon-woo Group. Hearing that name, a slight, chilling smile crept onto Gray's face. The boss took off his luxury watch, asking if the kid found this situation amusing. A heavy fist slammed into the boy's face. The man struck him again, asking if that felt funny, too. Between blows, he demanded to know if there were more files. He brutalized the boy, throwing him to the ground and raining down curses with every kick. Even so, Gray couldn't hold it back. A maniacal laughter bubbled up from his throat, echoing through the room. Still laughing through the blood, he told the old man he looked like a piece of trash fit only for a toilet. He spat that if he had more intel, he would have sold it already. The boss, enraged, ordered his men to bring the hammer. The man threatened to rip out every single one of the boy's teeth until he understood that this wasn't a game. But fate intervened. Just before the first swing, one of the guards called out to the boss. His subordinate reported a central dispatch order coming in a level 1 priority. They were needed immediately to provide security for an emergency meeting. Standing up, the heavy boots slammed into him, sending him sprawling into the darkness. With a sneer, the overweight captor spat out a threat, promising to return and finish the job later. Inside the cell, an elderly man and a woman huddled in the corner. Lying cold against the concrete floor, bitterness welled up in his chest. His father had been nothing but a fool, blinded by a ridiculous. It did without the strength. The crisp chaos swallowed a silhouette before vanishing. Adrenaline finally kicked in. They scrambled toward the exit, shouting breathless thanks to their savior. But just before stepping into the light, the boy paused, looking back one last time. His eyes widened at the carnage. Bodies littered the corridor. Gray couldn't comprehend how a single man could unleash such devastation. Hours later, the adrenaline faded as he finally stumbled back to the safety of his home. Yang-suk gasped, her eyes scanning the bruises on his face. He forced us. She watched him go, her heart heavy with unspoken worry. The moment the door clicked shut, Gray's facade crumbled, and he collapsed onto the floor. Gasping for air, his mind raced, replaying the slaughter. Was it the Ouyang gang that sent that monster? It didn't make sense the captors were armed to the teeth with guns. Yet, that Gray yanked open this one. Memory flashed back to the department head's interrogation. The way he had sneered about his father and demanded the missing Cheon-yu files. He had learned his finding the mystery. With that key phrase, he crushed. There it was. He stared at. He slumped. Still, a thought nagged at him. Anyone crazy enough to target Cheon-yu wasn't someone he could ignore. Fate was pulling him back in. Suddenly, the scale of the. He grabbed his. But arriving at the scene, his breath caught in his throat. High above, a figure was dangling precariously from a helicopter. Following this, but then, Gray stared in awe. Yang-suk was. Desperation flooded the boy's voice. He begged Yang-suk to save the man's life, no matter the cost. Hours turned into days as the surgery took its toll. When the protagonist Gray introduced him, the boy corrected his client. Tae-Ha studied. Gray not. The joke hung with his consciousness finally returning. He demands a timestamp. The boy answers cold and fast. For days have passed since he collapsed. For days lost to the void. He wonders if he really slept that long. Shaking it off, he calls out for Gray, asking if the self-proclaimed broker has located his target. But the kid, he confessed. Besides, the protagonist, Tae-Ha doesn't. Gray stares in before she do not interfere. But as leaving the, she lists the, if he offers, she shuts him. Stepping out into the blinding daylight, he scans the area. It looks like a marketplace. Ignoring the bustling crowd, he picks up a ringing phone only to realize it isn't his. Gray's voice buzzes through the line. The kid explains that the protagonist's phone is fried, so he can keep this one. He also directs him to a small box tucked in his pocket. Inside, examining the but Gray plays his ace card. He asks why a lone wolf is systematically exterminating the entire Cheon-yu family. He tells the killer not to look so shocked. Korea might be chaotic, but while Tae-Ha, Gray lays it out. It's not, however, but there is a Tae-Ha. He decides to. It's a private. Watching through, the protagonist shuts that fear down. These companies trade in silence and trust. They would never dream of selling data to third parties. This is watching the monitor. Gray falls silent, analyzing Tae-Ha's every move. He's confused the assassin didn't take any firearms. Surely a knife isn't enough for what's coming. Cold sweat begins to drip like rain from the protagonist's face. His body feels heavier with every step, his wounds screaming. It takes everything he has to keep a poker face. The pain, fighting, that man, Gray confirmed. The Gray, the ambush, with eyes as cold, a hooded, he utters, Piljongkum, but the man, he flashed. Suddenly, Gray's voice, he declares that the rules in this line of work are absolute. If you lie, you pay with your life. He tells Pil-jong that he must be prepared to face the consequences of his betrayal. Pil-jong freezes. The voice is hauntingly familiar. Tae-Ha asks how he could possibly fail to recognize the voice of his own friend. Pil-jong enters a state of shock. He stammers that the assassins assured him Tae-Ha was dead. The protagonist realizes words are now useless. Pil-jong curses his own stupidity. He should have known the moment he heard the password was an Italian expression. Desperate, the traitor tries to explain. He lost everything to gambling. He fled to Korea, only to rack up massive debts in the casinos of Cheon-woo. While pleading his innocence, Pil-jong subtly reaches for his gun. He claims he never would have talked if he knew they would try to kill Tae-Ha. But Tae-Ha does not wait for the lie to finish. He smashes through the wooden confessional wall and drives a blade straight through the traitor's throat. Pil-jong panics, clutching his neck as life spurts out between his fingers. The thugs outside yell, confused by the sudden violence. Through the button camera, the gruesome scene is broadcast live. The floor is painted in blood. Watching from afar, Gray is absolutely terrified. Tae-Ha is covered in wounds that would cripple a normal man. Yet, his fighting spirit burns hotter than ever. He It does not matter. Tae-Ha glares at their bats and knives. The moment they armed themselves, they forfeited their lives. There's no blinded. Tae-Ha calmly readies his stance. Gray notes grimly that a broken arm is the least of his worries. He has fractured ribs and gunshot wounds too. But pain he is all without. Tae-Ha uses his own arm sling to trap the enemy's limb. In a flash, he smashes his elbow into the man's face with bone-crushing force. Greed and adrenaline. One of Tae-Ha, his goal is even calmly. In the desk, he shudders. Suddenly, Tae-Ha's voice cuts through the static. He asks if the boy can hear him. The brats. Gray stands frozen, the words caught in his throat. Swallowing his rising panic, he simply nods, accepting the suicide mission. Stepping out of the scent of iron, Gray forces bile. I called it, but looking slowly peeling off a blood-soaked glove. The protagonist speaks, his voice low and dangerous. When I woke up, my clothes and phone were changed. But the strangest part, they left my gloves. The boy stands silent, sensing the deadly aura radiating from the man. Revealed on Tae-Ha's hand is the crimson crest of the Salerno family. The man's eyes bore into the boy. You know exactly who you're standing in front of, don't you? Gray, the only with a bounty. Tae-Ha's Gray's he thinks you have the. That's why. Meanwhile, in the polished corridors of a modern high-rise, two men stride down the hall. The superior warning the other, only speak when spoken to. Juan, though irritated, back in the you will be, but survive. The we wouldn't have. The eccentric, he raped the Juan's, the man turn it off, and he glared. Juan stepped. It was put out that cigarette. Chong's eyes twitch with suppressed rage. You think you knew better than me? It was a traditional emergency assembly of the main family. Do you think I can just cancel that on a whim? That is exactly why I paid $200 million. I hired him to deal with the threat quietly, without alerting the elders. The madman leans forward, resting his knee against his cane, a predator watching his prey. Clutching his injured leg, the man grits his teeth in frustration. Instead of neutralizing the assassin, they suffered devastating losses, and now he has no choice but to unleash his trump card. His gaze turns icy as he stares down his subordinate. He can't help but wonder how Juan is still breathing when every other elite guard was slaughtered. Juan defends himself instantly, desperation in his voice. He already explained it, that assassin operates by a strict code, and Juan simply didn't fit the criteria for death. A twisted smile plays on the luminec's lips. He suggests that perhaps terrorists have a rule against friendly fire, an accusation that ignites pure fury in Juan's eyes. He snaps, telling the man to stop spouting such garbage. Does he really think one would gamble with his parents' lives and the organization's honor like that? Chong lets out a cold, mocking laugh. It must be nice to have parents to rely on. After all, his own are already 6 feet under, even if he wanted their help. Suddenly, the Ouyang executive pushes up his glasses, ready to intervene. The question hangs heavy in the air. Exactly who was responsible for handling this so-called terrorist? The answer is immediate and absolute. It was Mr. Jun-yu. But in the corner, the girl casts a gaze filled with sharp suspicion toward the old master. Quinman's partner turns directly to the bodyguard for confirmation. Without hesitation, the man nods, validating the claim. Yet, a shadow of doubt lingers in his eyes. He accepts the answer for now, demanding to know what Shang expects in return for this mess. The reply is simple. He has no interest in cash or assets. The price is silence, total discretion regarding the incident. As far as the world is concerned, Hwan never laid eyes on the assassin. But deep down, the man is baffled why are Kai and Gu desperate to bury this matter. His companion flicks a lighter, the flame dancing as he ignites a cigarette. He exhales smoke, skeptical that their demands are truly so small. Chong moves to snuff out the disrespect immediately, but Junu's hand clamps onto his shoulder like a vice. Startled, the air freezes. The bodyguard speaks on his behalf, his voice steady as stone, assuring them that the terms are sufficient. The Ouyang representative needs a moment to process the shifting tides. He offers a cigarette to the bodyguard, but the man declines with a polite nod. He's left that habit in the past, but patience runs thin. Chong slams his fist against the table, rage boiling over. He demands to know if they have no fear of him. He is the future president, the king in waiting. He questions what that useless old worm is thinking, stringing together a vicious chain of insults. He tells the little brat to know his place. Rising to his full height, he declares that's exactly what his boss would say, and that ruthlessness is why he sits on the throne. The meeting is over. The man addresses the bodyguard one last time, sealing the deal. They accept the terms. He flicks the cigarette butt onto the pristine floor with disdain. Next time, have an ashtray ready, and a wet napkin wouldn't hurt either. The door closes, leaving the three remaining men in a suffocating silence. Jung stands frozen, the weight of the humiliation crushing down on him. Quinman breaks the tension. He's impressed. The man just dismantled the Chi-Nu heir's arrogance piece by piece, using nothing but words. Adjusting his glasses once more, he explains his purpose. Clearly, Chong is still a child who doesn't understand how the real world operates. The former president failed to teach his son anything of value. Perhaps the old man deserved his tragic end for leaving such a brat in charge. The sheer audacity strikes a nerve. The guy stares in disbelief. Did he really just say that? But the old man remains calm. He theorizes that the entire incident smells of a coup, a power grab orchestrated by Chinamong to seize the presidency. The elevator doors slide open as they stride out. The objective is clear. They must hunt down the assassin who dared to strike the Cheon-woo Group. Kwon argues the target is already dead, but his partner shakes his head. Jun-woo is a monster of strength, yes, but he never kills. That confirmation seals it. The complexity of the situation deepens, leaving the man awestruck by the endless layers of deception. It makes no sense for Chong to have hired him. Jun-woo lost too many of his own men. The assassin was merely a pawn on a much larger chessboard. Wan recalls the encounter. The terrorist mentioned he hadn't stepped foot in Korea for years. An idea forms: if they can recruit him, they might just topple the Cheon-woo Empire for good. The old man nods. That would be an ideal scenario. However, mercy is not an option. If they find him, he must die. The younger man is baffled. What was the point of all that scheming then? The old man reveals the true source of his anger. It stings his pride that Chun dared to imply Wan was too weak to handle the assassin. That Japal admit he thanked. The wreckage of the coffee table still litters the floor. The bodyguards stand like statues, their presence silent and heavy. Amber liquid he sings yet, and most his eyes dark. The Jang hisses through rage as he storms. The psychopath smirks coldly. Whether Tae-Ha is dead or alive, betrayal is not an option. He turns to President Cheon-Su, daring the old man to disagree. The old man, Yan Man's voice shakes with desperation. This wasn't the deal. He begs them to reconsider his transfer, panic rising in his throat. He pleads, he wails that before his masters, the old man, with a deafening Tae-Ha nods slowly. He finally understands how Gray identified him. His late father had been a researcher at the very same company. Gray explained, his young son, Gray Cho. Tae-Ha mutters dark. She notes, however, the protagonist shrugs. He was simply handling matters that would serve as insurance for the emergencies ahead. He tells the lady to relax. Anyone hated by the Cheon-woo or Ojang families is no enemy of mine. Calmly, Tae-Ha goes back to his meal. A silence. Suddenly, Won-gu, Yang-su, she tries to, yet he narrows his eye. Furious, Gray stands up, announcing he is heading to school. But as he walks to the exit, he casts a worried glance back at his friend. No killer. The protagonist Gray just as the Tae-Ha, Gray insists that Yaburi ensured everyone's safety. But now, they are buying buildings for a housing cooperative to leverage future negotiations. Gray sigh, but Tae-Ha analyzes the thugs. To him, they look like common trash. Yet they forced crime lords to back off. Interesting. He lunges for the brat, but young Suk instantly steps in his path, blocking him with an aura of absolute authority. Rage twists them. Without missing a beat, the protagonist steps out into the cold night air after them. The boy watched as Tae-Ha, even with the blood of the Jin family running through his veins, he still needs the board's vote to become president. To shake up the board, he will exploit the development of the Jiangsu district. He glares down at the delinquents. Take me to your boss. Now, are you Suri step? Suri scoff. Tae-Ha find in that glance armed marks. Moreover, if even one of their leaders is a former military officer, their command system is undeniably efficient. Is this how? Her insult sparks a flash of annoyance, but before Tae-Ha can take a step, a bullet slams into the asphalt inches from his foot. Tell me better. Her clenching his boss, the man stares, unmoved until suddenly, he obeys. He steps aside as ordered, leaving Suri completely baffled by her own guard's behavior. How could you ignore? You are not. He leans. Terror and confusion wash over her. Tae-Ha turns his back, walking away. Either way, you do not seem worth my time right now. Suri, she ignores. Is that why you let that lunatic get so close to me? She asks, voice trembling slightly. I thought our gang was united. Warren smiles. They are and are you sure? She turns. Crash. She tackles you, watching from the but repairs aren't. However, the Gray lean. She saved Tae-Ha. She tightens the noose around his neck. Siri hisses a curse, claiming she's been going easy on him from the start. But the brat clearly has a death wish. With icy confidence, she dares him to repeat himself. But Tae-Ha realizes something is off. The tension on the wires, it isn't coming from her alone. To her shock, instead of targeting the intruder, the snipers are aiming directly at their own boss. Tae-Ha notes that while it looks like a stalemate to the outside world, she is nothing but a puppet dancing on strings pulled from the shadows. That's why he claims there is only one option left. He asks if the puppet master is Cheon-gu. Visible fury flashes in her eyes, and she jerks the wire to finish him. But a metallic asterisk ping asterisk echoes through the room. To her horror, the wires have snapped. Dagger in hand, Tae-Ha calmly states that he just got his answer. Elsewhere in the city, luxury masks a nightmare. A man bangs frantically on a glass window, begging director In-woo to save him, promising to double the lost revenue in 2 months if given just one more chance. On the other side of the glass, the director barely pays attention, speaking into his phone asking for a status report. The spy reports that an intruder made contact with Siri, and the boy might have compromised their surveillance. As he asks for orders, a heavy cage door begins to lift in the background. A starving lion steps into the yard, eyes locking onto the trembling man. Desperate screams fill the air as the man begs the animal to stay back, pleading with the director for mercy. But In-woo watches without blinking, letting the beast tear the failure apart. He looks at the photo sent to his phone. Tae-Ha's face is fully exposed. A twisted smile forms on the director's lips. He finds this new player interesting. In-woo orders them to bring the brat to him alive. Meanwhile, Tae-Ha deduces that the true power behind the entire 3rd District is indeed Cheon-gu. Furthermore, the reason the girl hasn't wiped them out is simple. She is being held hostage by her own subordinates. Siri stares at the severed wires, demanding to know who the hell this guy is. He sliced through her weapon like it was thread, even though those were top-grade Kevlar fibers. Her eyes narrow, silently demanding his identity. Tae-Ha sheathes his dagger, assuring her he is simply the best person in the country when it comes to killing members of Cheon-gu. Her confusion only deepens. He claims that if Cheon-gu is her problem, then their interests align. Gray steps up, assuring the girl that she can trust Tae-Ha with her life. But the real shock comes when the old lady speaks up. Yang-suk tells Siri that she, too, believes she can trust this young man. That stuns the girl into silence. The woman never meddles in gang affairs. Reluctantly, she hops off the table, the fight draining out of her. As she turns to leave, her voice is heavy with defeat. She mutters that if killing a few people could solve this, it would have been over years ago. Irritated and fearful for them, she issues a final warning, telling Tae-Ha to get the hell out of her district before it's too late. She storms out, abandoning the trio at the restaurant. Later that night, the protagonist and the old lady stand outside, smoke curling into the air. He thanks her for the backup earlier, asking her to vouch for him against the Cheon-gu. Was a gamble, but Yang-suk shrugs it off. She complains that she only told the truth. There is no one else in this country crazy enough to stand against them. Tae-Ha cuts to the chase, asking who is secretly orchestrating this mess from inside Cheon-gu. The woman reveals the name, Director In-woo of the electric company. She spits the name out like poison, assuring him that Snake is always behind the suffering. She explains that when the former leader of the Yaburi series' father was nearly killed in the redevelopment war, that man took him to a private hospital. But it's a secret only the two of them share. The rest of the neighborhood believes he died. If the truth came out, there would be a riot, and In-woo would slaughter them all to keep control. Yang-suk admits she prays for a solution where Siri's father doesn't have to die, and she looks at Tae-Ha, asking if he can truly save them. Silence hangs between them. Suddenly, a radio crackles nearby. Someone identifies as B1, warning that the target is in their sights. The hunters ask if they are clear to engage. The spy confirms the intel. Yang-seok asked for help, but this intruder is a ghost. He's impossible to read, and his answer remains a mystery. This wasn't just some random thug. This was a mercenary from the elite private military group, Peak. On the radio, the handler realizes the severity of the threat. Codename B1 doesn't care about the details. His orders are absolute. Bring the target in breathing. His partner asks about the witnesses, the woman and the boy from the restaurant. The mercenary scoffs, promising to slaughter them all. But he never feels Tae-Ha materialize like a phantom right behind him. Pure instinct screams danger. The mercenary spins around, eyes wide with sudden terror as he realizes he's not alone. To slow, Tae-Ha strikes with lightning speed, crushing the man's wrist before he can aim his weapon. The distance between hunter and prey vanishes in a heartbeat. The radio crackles with panic. B1, report. But the mercenary can't speak. He can only stare in horror at the knife impaled through his own hand. With the threat neutralized, Tae-Ha calmly strolls over to the exact spot where the enemy had been. Stalking him, he snatches the radio from the dirt. His voice is ice cold as he speaks into the receiver. This is B1. Don't worry about your friend, Tae-Ha says, his tone dripping with menace. I'll see the rest of you very soon. The next day, inside the Cheon-woo private hospital, Director In-woo enjoys a meal while demanding results. Furious that the contracts weren't signed yesterday, Suri trembles, her voice shaking. She promises she is doing everything to get the signatures and prevent future backlash for the company. Beside them, her father grasps for life on a ventilator. In-woo sneers at the dying man, declaring that useless people aren't even human to him. To him, they are just meat, to prove it. The psychopath jams his fork violently into the unconscious man's leg. A scream tears from Suri's throat as she watches the atrocity unfold. In front of her helpless father, the heart monitor goes wild. In-woo laughs, twisting the fork. He claims the pain proves the chunk of meat is still alive thanks to his mercy. Suri breaks down completely, sobbing. She swears she will do anything. She will get the signed documents, no matter the cost. She shakes like a leaf, begging In-woo to stop the torture. She promises to follow every single order he gives. In-woo grabs her face, his grip bruising. Her desperate pleas for her father's safety fall on deaf ears. He sneers, calling her a whore. If she wants peace, she must be a good little puppet. She burns with rage, but she is powerless to stop him. The creep grins, admitting he loves that defiant look in her eyes. Breaking a spirit like hers makes the game worth playing. He shoves a photograph in her face. He asks if she recognizes the man she met yesterday. Suri blinks, still dazed from the trauma. It is a photo of Tae-Ha. In-woo demands she lure him into a trap before the sun sets today. Her tears dry up as she stares at the target. As In-woo turns to leave, he drops a final warning. She has everything to lose if she betrays him. A doctor bows low as the director arrogantly struts toward the elevator, oblivious to the storm coming his way. He dials his subordinates, but the line rings endlessly. He is too distracted to notice the other figure standing inside the elevator with him. In-woo slams the phone, cursing his incompetent men for failing to find Tae-Ha. He keeps ranting, finally glancing at the passenger. His blood runs cold. It is Tae-Ha, staring right through his soul. Before In-woo can utter a sound, steel flashes. Tae-Ha doesn't speak. He simply slices the director's ear clean off. In-woo looks down, confused by the severed flesh on the floor. The agony hits a second later, as In-woo shrieks in despair. Tae-Ha casually mentions he heard the director was looking for him. "Do you know who I am?" In-woo screams, throwing a desperate, sloppy punch at the monster in front of him. How dare this trash touch him? Tae-Ha recalls the intel. The Cheon-woo Group hired peak mercenaries to handle their dirty work in the redevelopment war. They were dogs of war who would commit any atrocity for a paycheck, and In-woo held the leash. Tae-Ha grabs him effortlessly. "Did you really think throwing money at the problem would make me disappear?" He pulls out a fistful of bloody dog tags taken from the mercenaries. "If you want to buy blood, be ready to pay with your own." He forces In-woo's jaw open and shoves the cold metal tags down his throat. Tae-Ha leans in, whispering a nightmare. He won't kill him today. He will find him and stab him every single day from now on. The hunt starts now. Run. Moments later, In-woo is scrambling down the hallway, hyperventilating in terror. He trips and crashes to the floor. Tae-Ha approaches with the slow, inevitable dread of the Reaper. In-woo screams for mercy. Tears stream down his face as he crawls backward. Tae-Ha has already slaughtered the guards. His calm demeanor is terrifying. Tae-Ha drives his blade into In-woo's thigh. "Stop screaming," he says coldly. "I missed the femoral artery. You won't die." He twists the knife before ripping it out. Tae-Ha stares down at the pathetic man. "Compared to where I've been, this is just a scratch." He wipes the blade clean. "I'll see you tomorrow for round 2. Later, in a lavish office adorned with festival art, Director Sang sips vintage wine. The board is divided. Out of 15 directors, 7 are his allies. 6 back the vice president, and to remain neutral. The real war for control of the company is just beginning. In these turbulent times, we must stand united like a fortress. He shook his head, feigning deep regret. Truly a shame it has come to this. A murmur of agreement swept the room. If the late chairman were here, his heart would surely break seeing this chaos. Words won't sway the neutral faction. Only results matter. A cold pause followed. The new generation is rising fast, perhaps even eclipsing the vice president himself. Suddenly, the air turned ice cold. Chairman Chong's gaze locked onto Director Jin-Gu. "I hear you are handling the Jang-gu redevelopment," he said, his voice smooth but dangerous. "Is the music to your liking? Can I expect a victory before the assembly?" Jin-Gu stiffened, sweat beading on his neck. "Absolutely, sir." Chong burst into laughter, a terrifying sound. "Relax, Director. Why do you look like a mouse before a cat?" The laughter died instantly. Chong's eyes narrowed into slits. "Do your best, Jin-Gu. We wouldn't want any unpleasantness between us later, would we?" Jin-Gu instinctively clutched his bandaged leg, the phantom pain throbbing beneath his suit. "Of course not, sir. I will ensure everything is perfect." Later, outside the lion's den, Jin-Gu limped toward his luxury sedan and collapsed into the back seat. His face twisted in pure agony. The memory of that blade piercing his flesh replayed in his mind. That bastard. Jin-Gu hissed through gritted teeth. "Next time, I will rip him apart limb by limb." "Home, sir?" the driver asked innocently. Thud. Jin-Gu kicked the driver's seat with savage force. "Do you even have to ask? You idiot. Drive." Click, click. Jin-Gu obsessed over the door locks. But then a voice from the front passenger seat froze his blood. "You look guilty, Director. Commit a crime recently. It was him, Tae." Jin-Gu's eyes bulged in shock. "How? The car was sealed tight. He stared in horror at the monster sitting casually beside his driver. A glimmer of steel flashed in the dim light. Seems this leg still hasn't learned its lesson, Tae drawled. Shuck. The blade buried itself deep into Ingu's knee. A guttural scream tore through the car's interior. While Ingu writhed in agony, the psychopath simply opened the door. Same time tomorrow, Director, he said cheerfully, stepping out into the night. Who are you? Ingu shrieked, tears streaming down his face. Why torture me like this? Speak, damn you. How can I give you what you want if you don't talk? Night shrouded the city. Tae checked his watch. Day 7, he mused. I have avoided the arteries, but the human mind breaks faster than the body. The director is nearing his limit. He turned to the group member, a subordinate step. Sheriff, it is and your network. Tae smirked. Sheriff, protect them. The word. Tae turned to, what is your game? Orang shouted after him. What do you get out of this chaos? Tae glanced back, a predator's grin on his face. The director's seat. Cheon-woo will be mine. Later, it was the CEO. He lit that rat. Why not tell the council? Insik asked, swirling his glass. Ask for support. Never. Ingu slammed his fist on the table. This isn't. I have spent. Ingu pointed. Insik. Ever heard? Hardly third rate. They are monsters. Insik leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. And your boy? He is their reaper. Code name, Vendetta. Their deadliest executioner. Records are. Name. Money isn't the issue, Insik said. When a nuclear warhead is heading your way, you don't build a shield. You launch your own nuke. I have summoned a rival monster to Korea. His name is Ingu. Oh, he recounts. Ingu, the CEO. He emphasized. He sets a steep. The elevator. He turns to the CEO, questioning the insanity of it all. Does it truly make sense to burn $1.3 million just to extinguish a single human life? Ingu explained. It is more than a. Gray steps. Tae-Ha. After all, in short, the boy. The golden. Gray doubt. However, since it is typical. Tae-Ha turned confused. Gray admits he has the item at home, but he looks at Tae-Ha with new eyes. He never pegged the man for the type to use those things. Tae-Ha with the Horong asked the veterans. Yet, Tae-Ha he issues the protagonist as he skills. The director's mansion stands like a silent tomb. Ghost-like, the protagonist has already slipped past the perimeter security unnoticed. With he moved. The silence is without stopping before. Ingu's voice crackles through the speakers. The director laughs. Mechanical gears grind. The entrance to the lion's cage hisses open. The beasts. But now, he called out the beasts by name, commanding the starving lions to slaughter. In a flash, the predators launched themselves forward, closing the distance to their prey with terrifying speed. Faced with, but instinct took. Ingu froze. Tae-Jos, without missing a beat, he dialed Gray, relieved to see the signal bars holding strong amidst the chaos. He sliced the splint off his injured arm, pain ignored in favor of focus. He warned that the real attack was imminent and ordered the boy to tell Seri to prepare for war. Watching this, Ingu began to shake uncontrollably. He recalled the legend of how this man once ventured into the Amazon hellscape to hunt a traitor, surviving a month on insects just to claim his kill. The director withdrew into himself, terrified by the sheer, unnatural calm the protagonist displayed while chatting on the phone in the middle of a battlefield. Vendetta turned his gaze to the camera, eyes burning with lethal intent. He declared that while Gray handled the defense, he was coming personally to hunt the director down. The boy relayed urgent intel to the group, warning that Cheon-woo was en route. He emphasized the threat of the Peak Company, confirming that Tae-Jo's message was simple: wait for his return. He was going to retrieve you, no matter the cost. There was no running away now, since the clash was written in fate. Their only option was to stand their ground and face the enemy head-on. Failure would mean death for them all. The members of the Emperor gang raged, convinced the scammer had fled the city after stirring up this hornet's nest. Gray stood firm, swearing on his life that his friend would return. But the panicked mob shouted him down, demanding silence. They scoffed at the kid's ignorance, reminding him of the last war's brutality. They spoke of children his age slaughtered, leaving parents to mourn in agony to this day. Yang-suk stepped in to shield the boy, her voice steady as she too assured the crowd that Tae-Jo would keep his word. Whispers broke out, questioning what that man meant to her, until a booming voice commanded everyone to cease their bickering. Assistant Suan silenced the room. He declared that their fate wasn't up for debate, revealing he had already asked his boss for the final order. The young heiress, clearly irritated and anxious, spoke up. Sari admitted she hadn't witnessed the last war, as the bloodshed had ended by the time she returned. Her voice trembled as she confessed the truth. Terrified of losing her father, she had allowed herself to become a puppet for Cheon-woo. She apologized for her deception, her eyes hardening with resolve. The time for lies was over. It was time to end this nightmare. She commanded every member of the Yuri gang to unite. Together, they would drive Cheon-woo out of their district once and for all. In-sik revealed the grim reality. The director intended to massacre everyone in the 3rd district. Since they lacked property rights, the construction company planned to bulldoze their homes, to build luxury apartments for massive profit. Although the truce with the Ojang gang forbade attacks, the arrival of the intruder, Vendetta, and the assassin chasing him had rewritten the rules of engagement. His subordinates quickly realized the strategy. Noting that the so-called assassin was merely a decoy to draw them out, the bald enforcer confirmed it, begrudgingly admitting that the despicable Cheon-woo was a master of manipulation. He warned them to avoid the fight until the Ojang gang arrived, letting Vendetta take the fall. Jerome, who had been watching the chaos with bored indifference, finally smirked. He admitted he expected nothing, but this escalating violence was starting to captivate his dark soul. He inhaled. The CEO barked the order to activate the assets. Instantly, vans stationed in alleys and parking lots slid open, deploying a swarm of combat drones. Each drone meanwhile, assuring him, screaming at the bald bodyguard to remember how he was stabbed in a public sauna last time. He demanded they skin every shadow. Terrified by the psychopath's promise to hunt him down to the ends of the earth. Inside the pursuing vehicle, Jin-Gu spotted him. Panic spiked as he realized Vendetta was closing in fast. Tae-Ha, his mind in the lead as a storm of bullets shatters the windshield, targeting the driver with lethal precision. Yet, defying death itself, Tae-Ha remains miraculously unscathed amidst the chaos. But the vehicle suddenly, through the wind instinct, in a move he lands, seizing the initiative to enemy. The engine roars as he accelerates, desperate to close the distance with the director. As fate would have it, a truck equipped with a car ramp appears in the convoy ahead. Target like a phantom, Tae-Ha weaves through the blind spots, dodging the bullet storm with supernatural reflexes as he guns it toward the ramp. It's time to with surge. He rises slowly, balancing on the moving car. He takes a deep, steadying breath, centering his focus for the slaughter to come. The guards crush him. He tilts his head, listening to the rhythm of the road, waiting for the perfect split second to act. Timing the soldier. Tae-Ha does with the he slides the man. Tae-Ha. Meanwhile, judging flashback. How ironic, she remarked, acting like knights in medieval Europe. She pressed the major because the girl, music, they're rigged, the sky, the drones hover menacingly. At headquarters, he laughs. There are too many. 10. The anti-drone because of the sea, panicky, the machine, Suhyans, the major. It looks like a normal night, until pinpricks of light materialize from nothingness, brighter, closer, more intense by the second. Boom, the area, standing atop a skyscraper, Shuri becomes the decoy. She dances across the ledge, manipulating her razor-sharp threads to ensnare the drone swarm in a deadly web. As the machine recoils in shock, who the hell is that? He swears nothing like this existed in the last war. His subordinates can only stare in awe. Shuri lands and apologizes for the secrecy. It is time she revealed her true weapon to the team. While they fought the bald command cracked. Someone real. The huge flashback to the man with back in the heat of battle. The mercenaries are baffled. How did Hyung locate their hidden base? The enemy captain shrieks to stop aiming for the head and shoot his legs. Too late. Orang grabs a soldier and smears him against the concrete wall. Orang crush. He whispers that the target is a monster. It is Shuri. The enemy has graced. It is a but suddenly, her eyes widen. Orang just took a direct hit. Yet Orang growl. Orang rip. Meanwhile, the director crawls out, falling to his knees before the protagonist. He screams, asking what Vendetta wants, and why he is unleashing this madness. The man's eye, the protagonist, but director Jin-Gu sneers, manic desperation in his eyes. You're already too late. There's nothing left, he assures him. By now, those streets are nothing but ash. A twisted grin forms on his face. I ordered total extermination. Men, women, children, the elderly. My command was absolute. Spare no one. I spent over 100 billion won on this, he laughs. Do you have any idea what that buys? Bombs, missiles, everything destroyed in under an hour. The protagonist doesn't flinch. I've heard that story before. Countless innocents slaughtered in the last war just for getting caught in the crossfire. He glares at the villain. And you still don't understand why I'm coming for you. They say no, they will. However, the director freezes. The memory of the hospital strikes him. He realizes he has seen those eyes before. The eyes of a man. People so but in June. Meanwhile, Hwarang weaves. Anyone. Suddenly, damn it, I know your name. Suri hisses, tightening the noose. The butcher of the city. You killed more than anyone else in your sector. I'm the CEO. Hwarang blinks and Jerome. He grips. Suri tenses up, sweat forming on her brow. Who is this new monster? She notices the impossible insect was completely entangled. Yet this lunatic ripped him free like the wires were cobwebs. What took you so long, you psycho? The mercenary leader barks. Jerome ignores the attitude. Base is 350 meters northwest. 4th floor of the ruins. Go now. Before he can finish, Hwarang charges. He slams the assassin against the wall with bone-crushing force. But the tank pauses, surprised. The guy is laughing, even pinned against the wall. Jerome grins. I'm staying here. I want to have a little fun. Insik screams into his radio, desperate. Launch every drone we have. Now, his subordinate panics. But sir, we don't have a target lock on their control center. It doesn't matter. The leader shrieks. My best man is holding them off. Kill everyone else while Jerome keeps that monster busy. Suri steps forward, shouting, I won't let you do that. But the distraction is fatal. Jerome seizes the opening asterisk wham. Asterisk, a devastating kick launches the massive Hwarang across the battlefield. Hwarang skids to a halt, struggling to stabilize. He grits his teeth. I didn't expect him to throw 120 kilos like a ragdoll. He analyzes Jerem's stance. He's not even using his full strength yet. This man is a true threat. Suri cries out Hwarang, but the big guy cuts her off. Don't worry about me. I'll handle things here. You handle the drones. Suri nods, making a split-second decision. Take him down and drag him to base. That's an order, she shouts. Finish this in 5 minutes. If the backup arrives before then, we're all dead. Suri turns to sprint, but terror freezes her blood. Jerome is already standing right next to her. Leaving so soon? Stay a little longer, he whispers, a sadistic smile widening on his face. It's much more fun this way. Death looms until a massive fist connects. Hwarang reappears, landing a thunderous blow that sends the assassin flying. Hwarang locks eyes with her, a reassuring grin on his face. Leave this to me. Go. I'll be right behind you. The girl doesn't waste a second, she simply nods. She spins around and sprints, lungs burning. Watching her go, Hwarang lets out a breath. Good. If she had hesitated even for a second, I would have cursed her out until she moved. He chuckles, genuinely impressed. For a rookie in her first real war, she is calm. Ice water in her veins, he muses. Must be in the blood. Well, look at that. Jerome cackles, wiping blood from his lip. A few more punches like that, and I might actually meet my maker. Hwarang rubs his chest, wincing. You took a direct hit and you're still laughing? Where the hell did you come from, freak? The assassin smirks, eyes dancing with madness. The Philippines. Self-taught Korean, too. How is my accent? Flawless, right? The banter dies. The air grows heavy. Two monsters stand face to face, sizing each other up for the kill. Jerome sighs dramatically. Life has been such a bore lately. I really miss this, the crunch of bone, the smell of blood. He introduces himself with a bow and instantly launches a fist into Hwarang's face. But the tank doesn't buckle. Hwarang roars and strikes back. He unleashes a barrage of heavy blows, aiming to crush every bone in the enemy's body. Jerome weaves through the chaos like a ghost. He spots an opening asterisk bam. Asterisk, a vicious uppercut connects. Oh, I asterisk love asterisk this. The assassin squeals. The impact leaves Hwarang reeling. Vision swimming, He tries to focus, but the psychopath is already landing another devastating combo. Blow after blow rains down. Through the haze of pain, a memory surfaces in Hwarang's mind. Someone who saw the real him. He hears the protagonist's voice echoing, *I trust your strength. I'm leaving everything to you. *. Hwarang clenches his bruised fist. Why? Why would a man like that put his faith in me? His mind drifts back to the past, the First District War, the early days of the Oyan Gang. His old friend Giza stood beside him, the man who led Yabiri before retiring. Hwarang had grabbed Giza's shoulder, eyes shining with ambition. Trust me, I'll make sure we all get those luxury apartments with the view. Just wait. But Giza had shaken his head with a sad smile. Look around, Hwarang. The people here, they're elderly. They can't wait 10 years for a paradise that might never come. Giza's eyes hardened. I'll fight, and if I die trying, at least I did something. But I have one favor, Giza whispered. If I fall, I leave the future in your hands. Snap back to reality. Hwarang's eyes blaze. With a primal yell, he forces his broken body to move, throwing a desperate haymaker. Jerome dodges effortlessly, countering with a strike to the ribs. Hwarang grits his teeth. He joined the Oyan Gang to find the meaning of strength. Music, but the truth he found was only despair. He saw a world of geniuses, monsters who rose like insurmountable mountains. When he hit the top 16, he realized his limit. He could never climb higher. But Giza's death shattered that illusion. It illuminated a truth he had been blind to. True strength isn't about climbing mountains. It is about the people standing behind you. Jerome lands another hit, but Hwarang doesn't fall. Gotcha. Hwarang ignores the pain and clamps his massive hand onto the assassin's skull. He charges forward, dragging Jerem's body with him. They call me the tank for a reason, he bellows. I am the one who paves the way so others can follow. For the first time, the enemy's eyes widen. He didn't expect this kind of power. Ha! The weirdo grins through the squeeze. That fist, it is heavy with conviction. And here I thought we were just playing tag. In a blur, the lunatic vanishes and reappears behind him. If you are getting serious, I suppose I should too. He draws a rusted crowbar. Thanks for the fun. I'll make this quick. Hwarang freezes. A chill runs down his spine. He can't move. Shing. A massive shockwave slashes horizontally. It tears through Hwarang and cleaves the concrete wall behind him. The structure groans, tipping forward to crush him. Good work, big guy. Suddenly, a shadow flickers. Tae-Ha appears, his blade slicing the falling wall into harmless dust. The protagonist steps forward, his aura calm but terrifying. Rest now, Hwarang. I will take it from here. He turns his gaze to the killer. Jerome twirls his crowbar, unimpressed. Vendetta. You sure took your sweet time. Tae-Ha draws his weapon. Your playtime is over. I am your opponent now. But first, Tae-Ha glances back. Hwarang is a mess of shredded flesh and blood. Can you move with those wounds? Music. Hwarang spits out a tooth and grins. This, just a scratch. They will have to kill me to keep me down. Tae-Ha nods. 1 block down. There's a black car by the streetlight. Ainu is waiting in the trunk. Get them to the hideout. Tae-Ha's eyes never leave the assassin. I will handle the trash. Leaving so soon, Jerome sneers. You think I'll just let the big guy walk away? Tae-Ha answers by kicking a heavy manhole cover straight at Jerem's head. Clang. The assassin casually blocks it. The protagonist marches forward, killing intent flooding the street. Jerome laughs, hooking the flying metal with his crowbar. Oh, you are serious. With terrifying speed, he hurls the manhole cover back. Tae-Ha sprints, dodging the projectile by a hair's breadth. The two predators skid to a halt, staring each other down. The real battle starts now. However, Jerome lunges forward, his eyes burning with an unquenchable thirst for adrenaline. The protagonist scoffs at the madness. Apparently, this lunatic has been roaming around, proclaiming himself as his fated rival. The weirdo grins, asking if the rumors aren't true after all. Steel clashes against steel at godlike speeds. Tae-Ha snaps that the guy is nothing but a glorified stalker, but the assassin just cackles, claiming that in their line of work, It is all the same thing. Chaos erupts as explosions paint the sky in violent shades of orange. Suri is a machine, shooting down every drone that dares to enter her airspace. Exhaustion weighs heavy on her shoulders, and she admits there are simply too many of them. She realizes with a sinking heart that she cannot afford to waste another second here. Suddenly, static crackles over the radio. A frantic voice reports that HQ is engaging hostiles just 50 meters from the base. Gray admits the situation is critical, but remains calm. Their high ground makes it a suicide mission for the enemy to approach, so he tells them to hold their nerve. He declares that the moment that man returns, this entire war ends. Their only mission is to survive until the king arrives. Hearing the absolute conviction in his voice, the girl wonders just who this legendary figure could be. The roar of an engine cuts through the noise. Inside the trunk lies the captured director. Even with his body battered and broken, Orion had stormed hell itself to retrieve the target. Fear twists the director's face as he realizes his fate is sealed. The behemoth grabs the man's skull, gripping him as easily as a ragdoll. However, if Tae-Ha falls, Orion knows he cannot stand against a monster like Jerome alone. He considers calling in reinforcements from the squad. His grip, above them, sparks fly as weapons lock. They stare into each other's souls, eyes burning with killing intent. Before unleashing another devastating flurry of strikes, Tae-Ha dragging him with a savage. He grins, the boy, but the boy's voice. Gray asks, however, despite his exile, that man's blood is noble. It would be far more accurate to call him the true heir to the throne. In the heat of battle, Tae-Ha's mind flashes back. He remembers the moment their cursed fates first intertwined. They were locked in combat when Jerome lost his footing, tumbling onto the train tracks. He barely propped himself up with his signature crowbar. Looking down, shock registered in his eyes. His legs had been completely crushed, twisted at sickening angles. Immobilized and broken, the roar of an approaching train filled the tunnel. In a moment of weakness, the killer looked up, silently begging Tae-Ha for mercy. But the protagonist turned his back, certain the train had finished the job. Yet, fate is cruel. Sometime later, a cargo plane soared through the skies. That was when the strikes were. Yet, back in the he reeled. Jerome in the blink of Tae-Ha barely. Jerome's especially. Yet, with a savage. Tae-Ha has zero time to react, seizing the open. But as the drone trembles with fury, he saw the hit land. How did the boy escape? Realizing his enemy can ghost from sight, he instinctively blocks a dagger flying from the shadows. Jerome sneers, declaring that vendetta has missed his mark once again. Another wasted opportunity. But Tae-Ha, before the first dagger even clatters to the ground, Tae-Ha materializes right in front of his face. Jerome's Tae-Ha the radio. Suddenly, fear grips her. Are they reinforcements? But the man calls out her name, identifying himself as Special Forces from the Ouyang Syndicate. He claims. He drops. The air grows heavy as they stare each other down. Tae-Ha recognizes him but is baffled. How did he track him? He realizes this man is a wild card, not one of Ainu's lackeys. Besides, Tae-Ha's Captain Wan smirks, asking if a thank you is in order. He reminds Tae-Ha that they can't afford a messy brawl right here. Tae-Ha, just as both war instinct, the madman. Boom! A flashbang blinds the duo. Tae-Ha activates his special vision, eyes darting through the smoke to track the enemy. He steps Tae-Ha's, but Wan admits he can't track Tae-Ha's godlike speed with his eyes. However, it would be humiliating to fall for the same trick twice. He admits Tae-Ha they drift. He chat Wan but the captain isn't done. He kicks into high gear, matching the boy's velocity. Wan whispers. Still, Tae-Ha slips past the attack. He tells Wan to head to the abandoned building, 3rd floor, 450 meters northwest. It's the Wan left alone. The Ouyang gang's elite force crackled over the radio, barking orders for immediate surrender. Refuse. He cursed under his breath, his eyes wide with panic. His men lay dead on the stairs, and paranoia set in. Did the Ouyang gang plant spies here just like they did in another Suan gang? The radio outside, a the major. He boasted, but it was Quarry. His voice was ice cold as he asked if their lives were truly worth 10 billion won. The giants. The impact was cataclysmic. It launched him straight through the wall and sent him flying out of the building. Across the street, Shuri descended like an angel of death, severing heads with effortless grace. Meanwhile, Seok lay broken on the pavement, dead on impact. As she sprinted away, she knew the nightmare was finally over. 5 minutes later, she arrived at the rendezvous point the protagonist had set. Inside, the boys and find the protagonist, he felt footsteps. Tae-Ha instantly offered a light, noting the late hour. Kwon Min chuckled, observing that the kid had started carrying his own pack. The captain, however, the boy vendetta as after facing Jun-Su, he refused to spill the details. Like it or not, the truth would be revealed the next time their paths crossed. The captain smirked. The Brett never gave a straight answer. He wondered if Tae-Ha would keep that same attitude with the guest about to arrive. Back at the abandoned building, Hwan returned. He was flanked by 2 dangerous men, their presence filling the room. Hyang immediately bowed low. As the former leader of Group B's old faction, he apologized profusely for forcing the vice president to travel this far. The elder noted it had been a long time, his eyes lingering on the man's injuries. But the warrior dismissed the concern, claiming he could still move just fine. Yap-il stepped forward, declaring himself the troublemaker here. He demanded an end to the stiff formalities. Hwarang was no longer part of the gang. Yap-il scolded him for bowing, saying he hadn't let him leave the life just to be treated like a superior. Even Hu-min could feel the shift in the air. The giant admitted his shock. Seeing the 7th was one thing, but he never dreamed the second in command would step foot in this place. He was the architect who transformed a chaotic gang into a sophisticated organization embedded deep within the political system. His appointment as vice president sent shockwaves through the underworld, proving that true power lies in strategy, not just brute force. In many ways, he is far more dangerous than the Cheon-gu faction. A heavy silence descends the moment his footsteps echo in the hall. Yap-il introduces himself with chilling calm, stating that before business begins, he has a few grievances to air. Director Jin-Gu is still bound in the corner, muttering endless curses. Yap-il points a finger, refusing to speak another word until his man is untied. While Seo recedes with rage, the protagonist remains ice cold, acknowledging that Jin-Gu is merely a criminal who violated their truce. Tae-Ha attempts to intervene, but the old man cuts him off instantly, commanding him to shut his mouth. He dismisses the boy as a mere outsider with no standing here, warning that one more sound will end this meeting. Tae-Ha has no choice but to swallow his pride and stay silent. Yap-il doubles down on his demand to release the director, while his subordinate Hymen smirks with arrogant superiority. Unable to speak freely, Tae-Ha simply nods to Seori. Reluctantly, she obeys the silent command. Yap-il doesn't even look at the hostage, simply stating there is a car waiting outside and ordering the disgrace to leave first. Jin-Gu stumbles toward the exit, vowing to repay this humiliation. He pauses to glare at them, promising their deaths will be quick and painless. Seori is trembling with fury. She demands to know what the old man's problem is, defending a manager who was planning to betray him anyway. Yap-il scoffs, asking why on earth he should believe the words of his enemies over his own people. This leaves her baffled and outraged. She asks how she could possibly distinguish between a breach of contract and their internal power. Struggles. She slams her hand against the table, screaming that the director held her father hostage. Her voice cracks as she reminds him that his third-best subordinate nearly murdered her flesh and blood. Yap-il shifts his gaze to the protagonist, coolly asking if it wasn't this very boy who stabbed Jin-Gu at the hospital first. Seori freezes, left without a defense. He declares that even if the director threatened her people, it does not justify declaring an all-out war. Since they chose to provoke and threaten his man using an outsider, it is his duty to hold both parties accountable for shattering the peace treaty. Yap-il leans forward, challenging them to produce any hard evidence to the contrary. The murder in the protagonist's eyes is unmistakable. Seori, having heard enough, declares that they are no longer interested in negotiating with the Ojang gang. The old man smirks, noting that the decision is no longer hers to make. They accepted the terms, and they are the ones who broke them. The representative stands, announcing they will send a formal proposal within 24 hours. They will have 1 day to respond. The delegation leaves with casual arrogance. Left behind, Seori kicks the table, screaming in frustration. Trembling with adrenaline, she laments that she couldn't say what she needed to. Convinced that Yap-il never intended to negotiate fairly from the start, Tae-Ha remains calm, simply agreeing with her assessment. She clenches her fists, suspecting a mole in their ranks. The old man knew too much before he even walked through the door. She turns to the protagonist, desperation in her eyes, asking if this disaster is truly going according to plan. He nods, praising her performance. Meanwhile, the Ojang members head for their vehicles. Surprisingly, Yap-il scolds Jin-Gu, telling him to ride separately, as he has no patience for cowards who hide at the first sign of defeat. The director bristles at the insult, trying to defend his honor. He stammers that he explained the situation clearly, whining that he is still young and didn't know what was expected of him. Yap-il ignores the excuses and walks away, but suddenly a car swerves to block their path. As expected, it is the protagonist. The vehicle creeps forward like a predator. Yap-il cracks his window, asking what the boy could possibly want now. Tae-Ha speaks with authority, noting that since both gangs are now cogs in a larger machine, they must avoid crossing certain lines. He points out that if Ojang loses the director they just recovered, especially after the rival Cheon-gu gang lost their president, they will be exposed. The agreement between the syndicates acts as a shield, but if the motive behind a disappearance remains a mystery, that shield shatters. He implies that for a man who claimed he didn't need to negotiate with a stranger, Yap-il now has a very good reason to listen. A realization strikes Yap-il, recalling the subtle cues from the meeting room. He realizes the boy wasn't waiting to ambush him. He was waiting for Jin-Gu to be released to strip away Yap-il's leverage. The old man admits he expected the kid to chase him down, but seeing the intelligence in the boy's eyes, he realizes he isn't dealing with a fool. Yap-il's demeanor shifts instantly. He unlocks the door, offering the empty seat and asking if the boy would like to join him for a ride. The protagonist declines the intimacy, stating they aren't friends. They just need to settle this business simply and efficiently. Yap-il chuckles, assuring him he wouldn't set a trap this late in the game. He simply knows a place with excellent cigars. Tae-Ha smiles, noting that only makes the situation more interesting. The situation was growing tense. The old man was notoriously picky about his cigars, and his patience was wearing thin. He mentioned rumors of Tae-Ha's absence from Korea, his eyes narrowing as he demanded to know exactly where the young man had been hiding all this time. Without skipping a beat, the boy met his gaze. "Italy," he replied, his voice calm and unreadable. The chairman hummed in thought. He admitted he wasn't an expert on the region, but he recalled a specific place in Italy famous for its tobacco, trying to dredge the name from his memory. But Tae-Ha didn't have time for nostalgia. He cut the old man off mid-sentence and slid into the car, his tone sharp. "You should have led with that." Jeppel blinked, clearly taken aback by the assassin's sheer audacity. As the engine roared to life, Sue glanced nervously at the dashboard. "Sir, the speed limit here is 31 miles per hour. Tae-Ha didn't even look up. "Forget the limit, just drive." Moments later, they pulled up to an exclusive venue. A white-haired attendant rushed to greet them, presenting a box with a bow. "Sir, these are the vintage cigars you usually enjoy." The attendant bowed lower, adding, "And I've also prepared the special order you requested." The chairman nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Excellent. I shall enjoy them, as always." The waiter wished them a pleasant evening and turned to leave, but Tae-Ha's voice stopped him cold. "Wait, do you have matches?" "Of course, sir. Shall I bring them to your table?" The waiter's professionalism was flawless. This was a sanctuary for the elite, a place where the drinks cost more than a commoner's monthly rent. Tae-Ha picked up the cigar, examining it with a critical eye. "This isn't your typical luxury smoke. It's a Kentucky blendrough, potent and beloved by the working class. It's known for its length, but there's a tradition." With a sharp snap, he broke the cigar in two. Handing one half to Jeppel, Tae-Ha smirked. "You cut it in half to share with a partner. That's why they call it the friendship cigar." Jeppel took the piece, realization dawning on him. A whole cigar takes an hour to smoke. Half means 15 minutes. The boy wasn't here to socialize. He was giving them a strict 15-minute window to talk. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unsaid words. The old man finally lit the tobacco, taking a slow drag. Not bad, he admitted, the smoke curling around them. Then the pleasantries vanished. Jeppel leaned in, his eyes cold. I don't care about the 3rd District or its redevelopment. That's petty change. I'm here because I need to understand something about you. First and second, Tae-Ha's he slammed his demand. Jeppel, if we off Tae-Ha, wrong. The Cheon-woo Corp. Then there's their inner the Dubang. Jeppel's they desire. Tae-Ha no. Jeppel corrected him, a knowing glint in his eye. You already know the real answer. Was it Cheon-bu? He remembered. Jeppel cut through the lie like a blade. The Cheon-woo Corporation has Jun-woo. The name hung in the air like a curse. That's what they said the moment they acknowledged his strength. A man of... He rose through. Tae-Ha leaned forward. Why are you telling me this? What is it you're looking for? Jeppel sat back, exhaling a cloud of smoke. You're a smart boy. I'm certain you already know exactly what I want. The realization clicked. You want me to kill them, Tae-Ha said, standing up. You want Jun-woo and the chairman dead. He buttoned his jacket. Thanks for the cigar. I'll take your silence as an agreement on the housing demands. As Tae-Ha turned to leave, Jeppel issued a chilling warning. If anyone outside the committee learns of my involvement, the rules dictate that you must be eliminated. Don't try to run, the old man added, his voice losing its edge. I want to maintain this connection we have. We could be useful to each other. Tae-Ha paused, glancing back over his shoulder. If you want a show, just watch the future. Keep your eyes on the next Cheon-bu Council meeting. Meanwhile, miles away, a fax machine whirred to life on the 31st floor of Cheon-gu. Electronics. An employee picked up the paper, bored, until his eyes scanned the message Tae-Ha had sent. His blood ran cold. The words written there were enough to start a war. Meanwhile, deep within a dense forest near a roaring waterfall, a figure sprints barefoot across the rough terrain, driven by desperation. It is Puto, a fugitive board member, clutching a piece of vital intelligence as if his life depends on it because it does. He dials the vice president, his voice trembling as he delivers the bad news. Jin-Gu has refused to participate in the vote. Miles away, the old man freezes in his bath, his relaxation instantly replaced by simmering rage. Puto quickly adds that he has sent a fax confirming a proxy will attend in Jin-Gu's place. The gruff voice of the vice president cuts through the line, demanding to know exactly who this proxy is. Back in the building, a single word of shock escapes the assassin's lips. He spins toward the young master, knife gripping tight. Realizing too late that the elevator was never a sanctuary, it was a trap. The young master stands calm and collected, explaining that he used the oldest trick in the book, magician's misdirection. By snapping the pole earlier, he successfully fooled his opponent into believing he had fled into the empty structure. He remarks coldly that the man has the natural stealth of a born killer. But whether magician or assassin, the game is over, and the price for crossing him must be paid in blood. Without hesitation, the enemy lunges, unleashing a lethal strike. But the young master's blade rises to meet it with terrifying precision. Shock floods the attacker's gaze. He demands to know how his opponent could possibly predict his every move. With a look of absolute superiority, the young master simply confirms that his instincts are never wrong. Steel sings against steel. The blades clash violently in the center of the elevator, unleashing a storm of sparks and rapid-fire strikes. Yet the master parries every single blow as if swatting away flies. The assassin is left reeling, his mind unable to process the sheer speed of the counterattack. This level of power was not in the briefing. Desperate, he rushes forward, his weapon carving a gouge into the elevator wall. But the master leaps backward, flowing like water to evade the lethal arc. The assassin prepares a follow-up strike, but his body locks up. Cold steel is already pressing against his jugular. For a heartbeat, a terrifying aura erupts around the master, his blade held high like an executioner's axe over the defeated foe. In a flash of motion, the knife slices the air, grazing the assassin's face before he can even blink. A smirk plays on the young master's lips. He warns that the man is as easy to read as an open book. leaving the killer's eyes wide with disbelief. Suddenly, disaster strikes. The elevator cable snaps with a deafening screech at the top of the shaft. Gravity takes hold, and the cabin begins a terrifying free fall. Yet, the master remains unfazed, revealing he anticipated this trap. There was only one way out of this metal coffin. As the world drops around them, he asks a chilling question. How does it feel to face someone who is always one step ahead? Robbed of words, the assassin screams a curse at his opponent. The young master responds by slamming him to the floor, pinning him down with a blade to the throat. The impact is catastrophic. They crash through the elevator doors, the force of the fall hurling them out into the unknown. They tumble into the hallway, and the master's blade shatters into fragments as it blocks a desperate strike from the enemy. Undeterred, the young master smiles, revealing the knife was a defective piece of trash anyway. Did the assassin really think that would be enough to stop him? Before the killer can retort, the master's hand clamps over his face like a vice. With a gaze that freezes the soul, he commands total silence. The chaotic sounds of their brawl echo into the night air outside the building. With a surge of strength, the young master hurls the assassin toward the window. Glass explodes outward, sending them both plummeting into the void. Even in midair, the assassin attempts a final, desperate strike to break free. But the young master ruthlessly uses the jagged remains of his broken knife to block the attack. Seizing the opening, he slashes across his opponent's face. The enemy's body spirals down, slamming into the ground with a bone-crushing thud. The master, however, lands with the grace of a cat, barely kicking up dust. He stands at a distance, casually pulling out a cigarette as if he just finished a morning stroll. He attempts to light it, but his lighter clicks uselessly broken in the fight. Standing in the twilight, he admits the man's skills were formidable. He has rarely encountered a killer with such raw talent. But his expression hardens. Acting and disguising are useful skills, he notes. But living a lie alongside someone is a completely different level of deception. Memories surface. He knew all along that Jong-yu had ignored him on purpose, daring to betray the hand that fed him. The fallen assassin's vision begins to blur, his silhouette fading as the Reaper approaches. He tries to speak, but his body is failing him. Holding the man's own knife, the master reveals the cruel twist. The poison on the assassin's weapon had been transferred back to him during their clash of blades. As life drains away, the assassin uses his final breath for one last plea. He begs the master to spare the boy involved in this mess. The young master lifts the unlit cigarette to his lips. In any other situation, he says coldly, he would kill the boy and leave his signature as a warning. Instead, he leans down, pressing the tip of his cigarette against the assassin's blade. Still scorching hot from the friction of their battle, smoke curls into the air as the metal ignites the tobacco, a testament to the intensity of their duel. He exhales a cloud of smoke, declaring that for the sake of the man's loyalty, he will show mercy just this once. He tells the dying man to consider himself lucky. Night cloaks the city in darkness. Elsewhere, the scene shifts to a dimly lit bar, where a man anxiously chews on a drinking straw. Across the table, his companion leans in, voice heavy with skepticism, asking if he is absolutely certain that Due-ong truly promised his vote. The man in glasses nodded slowly, confirming the arrangement. He added that he had invited him specifically to hear the good news in person. Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the table. A cold smirk touched his lips. It seemed their winning streak was unbroken, and the troublesome master had finally been eliminated. With a casual flick, he tossed the device across the desk. "President Beck," he commanded, "answer that for me." Beck pressed the phone to his ear. The voice on the other end was clinical and ruthless. "Confirm the young master's corpse. Then dissolve it in acid until nothing remained. I will bring ahead." President Beck swallowed his hesitation and agreed. He turned on his heel, exiting the office and striding down the long, empty hallway. Alone in the corridor, Beck rushed to the composing, "Spare me down." Moments later, Cheong, as they walked, "My family," his eye, Jun-su, he turned Jun-su, but he continued, "Jun-su, the Cheon-woo Corporate, I did it." The master's jaw tightened, rage bubbling beneath the surface. "My parents were murdered for that ridiculous logic." His hand drifted to the weapon at his side. "I didn't need to listen to you after all," he decided, killing intent flaring. "Don't you agree?" Cheon-Su, he held it. What is this? Cheong wondered, narrowing his eyes. Some kind of secret code. Suddenly, a shadow materialized behind him. A man with long hair stood there, looking down like a predator stalking its prey. Cheon instinct took over. He leaped back, creating distance instantly. Who are you? He demanded. When did you get here? In the long Cheon-Su, the two men, the scene shifted, panning over the glittering city skyline under the dark canvas of night. Elsewhere, a man in dark shades. We have news, he reported, while hunting the bounty on Director Herring. The pitcher has finally made a move. The aftermath was devastating. He had lost his right arm, and Bada was currently fighting for his life in the ICU with critical injuries. The informant continued, his voice low, revealing that Vice President Yang of the Cheon-Woo Group had already held secret meetings with the Do-Bang Alliance. The man in sunglasses adjusted his shades, concluding that since Jun-woo had sided with Cheon-jin, Yang was forced to bring in outside mercenaries. The weight of the situation crushed down on him. Yang's involvement was transforming a simple family feud into a full-scale corporate war. He demanded to know the target's location. Meanwhile, inside a dimly lit warehouse, a mannequin sat on a couch as a cold voice ordered, "Fire." In the blink of an eye, a deafening explosion obliterated the mannequin, leaving the three observers staring at the destruction. One mercenary explained with a smirk that the bomb was designed to blast shrapnel directly into the spine, detonating the moment they sent a text signal. Vice President Yang narrowed his eyes, asking if failure was an option. The tech specialist adjusted his goggles, confirming the system was flawless. He detailed the terrifying plan. Military-grade explosives had been systematically planted. Every single seat designated for Cheon-jin's supporters in the meeting room was now a death trap. And because the detonators were crafted from ceramic, they would ghost right through the building's metal detectors without a beep. Another mercenary noted the seating chart was confirmed, but promised their reaction time would be instant even if targets moved. However, a shadow crossed his face as he mentioned the one variable they couldn't account for. That man whose location remained a mystery, with eyes burning like a demon's. Vice President Wang Huyang declared that neither Cheon-jin nor Jun-woo mattered, for blood was the only payment for the wrongs he suffered. As that turbulent day faded into night, a suffocating silence fell over the city. Yet, beneath the surface, rumors of the Cheon-su internal war began to leak. The day of the board meeting arrived, and the Cheon-su headquarters was besieged by a media storm unlike anything seen before. Reporters swarmed the entrance, confused and buzzing with questions, as not a single board member or luxury sedan had appeared yet. Suddenly, a cameraman pointed, shouting that a single photo of the approaching scene would be enough to feed the press for a month. The Cheon-Woo Group's elite security force had gathered in mass, signaling that an event of legendary proportions was about to unfold. Inside a high-rise office, the truth came out. Director Kim Myong-gil was the rat who leaked the meeting details to the press. Cheon-jin, a director of the group, smirked, realizing this was a calculated move to fan the flames of chaos. He noted that Vice President Yang would be terrified of an all-out public war, which made this leak a brilliant strategic play. Speaking of strategy, Cheon-jin suggested reinforcing their numbers, demanding to know if the young master had been located yet. Director Kim shook his head, reporting that President Beck had ordered all security forces to lock down the first floor instead. Meanwhile, down at the main entrance, a lone figure walked calmly toward the wall of flashing cameras and reporters. High above in his office, Cheon-jin laughed at the absurdity, noting that this person clearly didn't give a damn about the message he was sending. He leaned forward, wondering aloud if Tae-Ha actually had the guts to walk right through the front door into the lion's den. On the 36th floor of the headquarters, a heavy door that had been sealed for months finally creaked open. This was the president's sanctuary. It was the throne room where the rulers of Cheon-su were decided, and now, the ominous sound of a gong resonated from within. A mystic ritual was underway, for whoever held this room held the empire. While musicians beat a primal rhythm, a shaman struck the gong with hypnotic force. Shirtless men danced in a trance-like state, their bodies moving wildly to the escalating beat of the drums. Beside them, another man bowed zealously before an altar of offerings. while the head shaman shouted incantations into the heavy air. Far down the hallway, Jun-woo watched the spectacle in silence. Back in the office, Cheon-jin asked for a status update, learning Jun-woo was on the 36th floor. His subordinate explained that a shamanic rite was being held at the vice president's request, forcing the floor manager to attend. Director Kim frowned, asking why such a ritual was necessary at a time like this. The answer was simple yet chilling. The vice president was already celebrating his victory. He was drunk on the prospect of becoming the next president, and his ambition was so potent it practically leaked from his pores. Cheon-jin's eyes went distant as he recalled the bloody past after his grandfather's death. Everyone blamed his father for the purge of the legalist faction. But the dark truth was different. The monster who had tortured the legalists to death was none other than Vice President Yang himself. Cheon-jin's voice dropped an octave as he admitted he saw it all. His father had forced him to watch the brutality firsthand. Suddenly, a phantom scream echoed in Director Kim's mind, pulling him into the horror of that memory. In the flashback, a bound man screamed in agony, swearing he wasn't part of the faction and had only served the late president. Holding bloody pliers, Vice President Yang had demanded the family's secrets, promising death if the man kept his mouth shut. Back in the present, Cheon-jin trembled with twisted excitement, wondering who would claim Tae-Ha's head first, him or the vice president. Outside, reporters pressed against the glass, realizing the lobby was completely barricaded. The trap had been set. Fate brushed past him as one of them collided with a stranger in the crowd. The staff dismissed him as a rookie, failing to see the dragon hiding in plain sight. But inside the lobby, Ma Young-gu's eyes widened in instant recognition. Disbelief washed over him. Was the young master truly making his move? A knowing smile played on Tae-Ha's lips. Elsewhere, he stepped into the Bowman-gak restaurant. He was alive, but the path ahead was paved with thorns and blood. In a secluded room, he met Kang. The old ally joked, "Keep visiting me like this, and I'll die of shock before old age takes me." Tae-Ha's expression turned serious. There was a burning question he needed to ask. "Why did you stay?" the young master demanded. "Why didn't you flee?" The older man simply smiled with an eerie calm. Tae-Ha pressed on. After the massacre, the Jin-Gu Corporation was a graveyard for loyalists. It was suicide to remain. "What kept you here?" he asked, his gaze intense. "Why serve a master who sees no value in you? Why let the enemy place a spy so close?" Kang-gu's smile didn't falter. Determination, he answered softly. He believed that one day, a true heir would rise to walk the path the late chairman paved. It was a blind, foolish faith that the enemy ignored. That was why the spy waited in the shadows. For this very moment, stunned by the weight of that loyalty, Tae-Ha whispered, Who were you waiting for?" Suddenly, chaos erupted in the lobby. Attention! A roar echoed, catching the Jin-Gu security detail completely off guard. A formidable group marched in. It was election day, and the order was absolute. No outsiders allowed. Captain Woo Jin of the black team didn't hesitate. "Kill anyone who threatens the corporation. No exceptions." Whispers rippled through the crowd. They recognized the legendary captain of the hit squad. The black team, a shadow unit with blood on their hands, possessing combat experience far beyond the headquarters personnel. With these killers securing the perimeter, Vice President Yang had finally seized the military might he craved. In seconds, the black team locked down the lobby in a perfect formation of death. Yet, a voice cut through the tension. "We are not enemies here." Though their masters differed, every guard shared one sacred duty: to protect the Jin-Gu Corporation with their lives. It was a tiger's den filled with 400 warriors ready to strike. Yet, Tae-Ha stepped toward the entrance, his faint smile unwavering. Ma Young-gu barked the command immediately. "Lower the blinds. Seal the main door now." Hands drifted to holsters. The order to eliminate the intruder swiftly hung heavy in the air. But the young master didn't flinch. He planted his feet at the entrance and raised his voice. "I am Tae-Ha Jin," he thundered, grandson of Chairman Jin Seok-ho, son of Jin-Su. The declaration sent shockwaves through the reporters while Vice President Yang watched from above. Elsewhere, Chang-jin smirked. Does he really think he can just waltz in like last time? Tae-Ha continued, his voice ringing with power. 17 years ago, I survived your ambush. I crawled back from hell itself. He pulled a pen from his pocket, a symbol of authority. I am here to fulfill my grandfather's will and claim my throne as the heir of Cheon-gu. He held the artifact high for all to see. Does anyone here dare deny this symbol? A guard scoffed. That's ancient history. But then he froze. His comrade was walking toward the young master with purpose. The memory resurfaced, the reason the spy had endured the darkness and waited by his side. Who's left? The voice from the past asked. Who among the loyalists still stands? The loyalists were not dead. They were waiting. The scene shifted back to the chilling memory of a shamanic ritual. The shaman danced wildly, leading a ceremony of torture and blood. Reveal the secrets, they demanded. Chang Jin revealed the grim truth. Vice President Yang himself had tortured the loyalists to death. I saw it all, he confessed. My father sent me into the viper's nest to witness their sins. The drums beat faster. The ritual reached a fever pitch amidst the macabre dance. Speak or die. The vice president sought to wash away his guilt and seize the crown through blood rituals. Back in the lobby, reality shattered. A guard dropped to his knees before Tae-Ha. Then another, and another. A wave of submission swept the room, silencing the reporters and stunning the enemy. Chang Jin laughed maniacally at the irony. The memory played on the chairman's final command, protect the company until I return. Head bowed to the floor, the guard wept. We failed you. We failed to fulfill the president's wish and protect the legacy. The summons had been issued. The revelation struck the onlookers with the force of a physical blow. Meanwhile, a mask of arrogance plastered the young director's face. He marched toward the inevitable confrontation as if victory were already in his grasp. Elsewhere, news of one of his after Cheon Jin's with a cold glare, the head of security emphasized the mission. They had to crush this insurrection right here to secure the council's vote. He knew the stakes were lethal. Failure meant taking the fall not just for his career, but for the bloody incident at the annex. Suddenly, a sharp female voice sliced through the tension, demanding to know the source of the commotion. Director, at that he dropped the Yang declared with authority, if these crimes are traced back to Cheon-yu, this will be prosecuted as an organized coup for power. Hearing this, with a great, she added that the groups inside the steel box, the director broke the silence. She remarked to the vice president that she never suspected him of being a closet legalist. She mused that his thirst for power must have been a facade all along, considering the legalists were sworn to serve the late chairman Seo-yup Jin. Finally, he explained, that was the young, as the she laughed softly. That is why the heavy, at the director, taking her, Tae-Ha at the moderate, however, executive, the moderate, he roared, Cheon Jin, vice president, upon hear, he turned his, laughter echoed from the tap, memories of, he went, the one, director talk, a mocking, Tae-Ha tap, then, he pointed out, director, seeing no in the he straightened his jacket, eyes focused and grim. It was time to move. The moment, a familiar voice called out from the dark interior, asking if he was Guang-su. The driver remarked that he looked ready to head into battle. Guang-su recognized them immediately, the locals who had patched him up when he was wounded. Guang-su, but he cut him off with a sharp grin. They knew the risks better than anyone. Dealing with Tae-Ha's chaotic world was nothing new to them. Back in the young, he explained, then came Tae-Ha, Takuo, vice, Yang placed his, Guho, he reminded, Tae-Ha entered, he pointed, neck, further, finally, the name whom, confused, but Cheon, a flashback, but Tae-Ha, back, he but the real, chaos he threw out, but Tae-Ha didn't let, it showed the Yang, this Tae-Ha, it made that was in the room, if these she turned her gaze, sudden, direct, but then, he confronted him head-on. Who murdered Kim and Sue? Who spilled the blood of our allies? Who ambushed the village? Gripping his cane until his knuckles turned white, he pressed on. Who killed my father? Who crippled me? Tell me who is the real culprit here. Clutch, why do you ignore one of it? Dawned on him the young master couldn't possibly know these details, unless he had a mole close to Cheon. Music then, the atmosphere shifted. An intense, crushing aura began to radiate from Cheon Jin's hand as he clutched his cane. He didn't hesitate. He looked them in the eye and confessed to killing his own father, to seize the Cheon-yu shares, accepting the gravity of the accusation with terrifying calm. Then came the masterstroke, Raising his arm, he declared, "I will return every single inherited share to the state." He clarified that this included his grandfather's portion, a secret detail the young master should never have known. The sudden declaration hit Vice President Yang like a physical blow. He stammered loudly, questioning if Cheon-jin was truly insane enough to donate his entire inheritance. With a sly smile, the heir confirmed it. Since the legal paperwork was still pending, he would renounce it all in favor of the state. He detailed his plan. The funds would flow to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, bolstering the National Pension Reserve. His goal, to stop the shares from plummeting and allow the fund to support those in need. He declared he only wanted a bright future for Cheon-yu, claiming no desire for power built on tragedy. However, giving away nearly 30% of Cheon-yu's shares was madness. What was he truly planning? Doubts swirled. Was this a bluff, or did he have another ace up his sleeve to keep control? Whispers rose about his connection to the sect of eternal life. Was that the source of his unwavering confidence? Defeated, Vice President Yang could only mutter, "Do as you wish." The unexpected move had silenced him completely. But Tae-Ha wasn't done. He agreed Cheon could dump the shares, but he slammed his fist down, demanding the murder investigations continue regardless. The accused didn't flinch. He simply stared back, his silence speaking volumes. Director Jin slammed his hand against the mahogany table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. He didn't just agree. He demanded that these cases be treated as a matter of life and death. His voice dripped with venom as he laid out the ultimatum. Before anything else, they had to determine if the heir was even worthy of inheriting a single share of the company. A nervous director tried to intervene, begging Jin to watch his tongue. He reminded him that this was a sacred boardroom, not a street brawl. The accused heir didn't flinch. He simply smirked, asking if the director truly believed such fairy tales. Did he really look like a monster capable of slaughtering his own flesh and blood? Director Keon's face twisted in disgust. He called the man shameless, screaming that everyone knew exactly what atrocities he had committed. Just last month, the truth came spilling out. Under the guise of catching a killer, the heir had lured his late uncle's grieving families to a private restaurant, a trap disguised as a sanctuary. But there was no dinner served that night. Instead, innocent family members were bound, gagged, and thrown onto the cold floor like cattle awaiting slaughter. Then came the execution. A hail of bullets shredded through the closed doors, turning the room into a chaotic hellscape of wood chips and blood. No one was meant to survive the purge, but fate had other plans. A terrified janitor, cowering in a storage closet, had witnessed every second of the massacre. Back in the boardroom, the tension was suffocating. Yet, the accused remained terrifyingly calm, asking if there was a shred of proof to back up these wild stories. He leaned forward, his eyes cold. How could they be sure this so-called witness wasn't just a convenient ghost story invented to destroy him? Director Jin wasn't backing down. He roared that the janitor was a loyal employee of 8 years, and he had personally verified her background. This was no ghost. This was a witness to evil. Asterisk thud. Asterisk. The accused struck his cane against the floor, silencing the room. He scoffed, asking if they really thought he'd wipe out his entire lineage just because they posed a minor threat. Spreading his arms wide in a gesture of mock innocence, he posed the ultimate question to the board. Did they truly see him as a reaper who harvested the souls of anyone in his path? Director Jin leaned back, his eyes narrowing. The investigation would soon reveal the bloody truth. In the corner, Tai remained dead silent. He wasn't listening to the words. He was dissecting his opponent's every micro-expression like a predator. That supernatural calmness in the face of murder accusations, it was unnatural. It sent a chill down Tai's spine. Even knowing the man was lying through his teeth, Tai felt the coils of a giant serpent tightening around the room. The heir just sat there, wearing that wide, confident, devilish smile. Tai's instinct screamed danger. He had to end this meeting immediately. The heir wasn't defending himself, he was setting a trap. Tai raised his hand, his voice steady. He agreed that a full investigation was absolutely essential before moving forward. But Director O slammed the table in protest. He argued that the agenda was set in stone, and the company couldn't afford a single second of delay. Director Jin fired back instantly. If they elected a criminal today, only to arrest him tomorrow, the Jin-Woo Group's stock price would plummet into the abyss. Tae-Ha turned to the vice president, his voice urgent. He suggested they postpone the meeting right then and there to avoid catastrophe. But then the accused raised a hand, cutting through the noise. He had a new proposal, one that would shake the board to its core. He played the diplomat perfectly. He admitted that leaving the throne empty was dangerous, but he also conceded that the murder accusations were valid concerns. His solution was simple but cunning. Elect him today, but delay his official coronation for 1 month. Enough time for the investigation to clear his name. Vice President Yang scoffed at the time frame. 1 month? Impossible. A proper murder investigation would take at least 6 months to uncover the skeletons in his closet. The proponent shot back, questioning the logic. How could they guarantee the vice president wouldn't use that time to rig the election in his own favor? He insisted on voting now, and with a cold stare, he reminded the vice president that if he didn't like the result, the door was always open for his resignation. Vice President Yang didn't speak. He simply stared, a silent war of wills raging between the two titans. From the sidelines, Director Yoon watched the chaos. Why was the air in such a rush? His desperation reeked of guilt. The stalemate was broken by the gavel. The moderator announced they would proceed with the main event, the presidential election. 2 tigers were vying for the mountain. The names were called out like fighters in a ring. Director Jin versus Vice President Yang. The tension was palpable. The projected vote count was a dead heat, a 7-7 tie, hanging on a single, unpredictable decision. But a tie meant a revote, and that didn't fit Jin's plan. A dark suspicion took root in the room. Was it possible that some of his own loyalists were preparing to stab him in the back? The moment of truth arrived. The moderator called for the vote. All those in favor of Director Jin, raise your hands now. Hands shot up instantly. Even Director Ham, the known moderate, raised his hand high, signaling his allegiance to the accused. 1 to 7 votes. The count was exactly as predicted. The board was deadlocked. But then a shockwave hit the room. An 8th hand rose slowly from the vice president's side. It was Director Jang, a traitor in their midst. Vice President Yang froze, his eyes widening in betrayal. Director Jin leaped to his feet, screaming Jang's name in a mix of fury and disbelief. Jang stammered, his face pale, but his hands weren't empty. He held up a small detonator, confessing he had no choice after discovering the vice president's true nature. Yan's eyes locked onto the device. His combat instincts kicked in instantly. He knew exactly what that was. A horrific realization slammed into him. In a flash of memory, he saw a test dummy obliterated by that same device. A bomb designed for pure destruction. It wasn't just a bomb, it was a directional mine, designed to spray lethal shrapnel at a specific target the moment the signal was given. Back in the meeting room, the vice president sat paralyzed, unaware that the Reaper was already standing behind him. Tae-Ha demanded to know why Director Pyo held the detonator. A failsafe meant only for the direst of threats. The horrific truth crashed down on them. Explosives were rigged beneath every single seat occupied by the loyalists. Disbelief shattered Tae-Ha's composure as he turned to the director, his eyes screaming the question: had a sworn brother truly sold his soul to the enemy? The memory of the accused's earlier words echoed in his mind, chilling him to the bone. Do you see me as a man who would slaughter anyone in his way? Tae-Ha finally understood. Those weren't questions, they were promises. Pyo wept, whispering apologies, his thumb hovering over the trigger. Instinct took over. Sensing the Reaper's scythe, Tae-Ha roared for everyone to get down, shoving the vice president to the floor in a desperate bid for survival. But mercy was absent that day. Director Pyo pressed the button, obliterating the seats of his former allies in a deafening blast. For a split second, the world outside the Cheon-woo building remained cruel and serene, bathed in peaceful sunlight. Then the order to fire was given. A spray of crimson painted the meeting room windows from the inside, marking the start of the massacre. In the eye of the storm, the man at the center of it all stood motionless, even as blood splattered across his cheek and screams filled the air. His expression remained terrifyingly calm. As the smoke cleared, Ma Youngam looked around at the hellscape, his mind unable to process the carnage before him. Amidst the broken bodies and pooling blood, the moderator's voice trembled as he announced that Director Jang had secured the majority with 7 votes. The board chairman, Song and Lee, wasted no time. They officially declared him the new president of the Cheon-woo Group. The gavel struck with the weight of a coffin nail. The bodies of the vice president and Director Cheon lay still, silent witnesses to the coup. The victor rose from his seat, glancing at the corpses with cold indifference. He wiped a splatter of blood from his face and sneered, "Cockroaches really do hide everywhere." With blood masking his features like a war paint, Tae-Ha turned, screaming the new president's name with raw fury. He forced his battered body upright, staring down his nemesis across a room that had become a swimming pool of blood. Tae-Ha demanded to know how he could execute a slaughter in broad daylight. The accused merely scoffed, feigning innocence and claiming Director Pio had his own motivations. His eyes narrowed with predatory arrogance as he added, "Only a fool dares to provoke a sleeping bear." Tae-Ha didn't flinch. He barked the order for the survivors to stand. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Director Yang didn't wait. She charged forward, screaming in rage at having been dragged into this nightmare, her intent murderous. The target watched her approach with a confident smirk. But before she could connect, Du Hyan materialized from the shadows, catching her wrist and stopping the blow cold. She spat at him, ordering the bodyguard to unhand her, branding him nothing more than an unleashed dog. Du Hyan remained impassive, calmly retorting that she was gravely mistaken about who had actually pulled the trigger on the bombs. Seizing the man didn't, but before Tae-Ha's strike could land, Du Hyan intercepted him midair, delivering a devastating kick to the chest. The impact was brutal. The young master was hurled across the conference room like a ragdoll, crashing into the far wall. Yang saw her open. She hit across the room. Tae-Ha staggered back to his feet, agreeing that for their opponents, the end had indeed arrived. He reached behind the vice. Tae-Ha remained silent. The security. Suddenly, a subordinate beside him dropped, struck down by an unseen force. The hesitation vanished. Amidst the looking down, he reeled across the target. Adrenaline. He heard the flashback. The man, the ally. Tae-Ha off. Looking back, the opponent sneers. "Love does not exist," he declares 3 times. "And next time we meet, I will utterly destroy you." With that, the ally offers a knowing smile. "Exactly. That is why I ordered the elevators to be cleared beforehand." What? But the enemy isn't the only one who prepared for the chaos of this day. Inside the outside the building, police sirens wail. Officers push back the swarm of reporters. "Show's over. Clear the area immediately." A journalist boo. Chaos erupts in the main lobby. A full-scale war breaks out between the 2 security factions. Spread out. Azra. He scanned. In the heat of blood gritting through. Without hesitation, the man sprints into the hail of bullets, charging the front line like a berserker. Bullets rip into him, but he doesn't stop. He becomes a living shield, sacrificing his body so his comrades can push forward. Now, he weaves the Suddenly Clang. Steel meets steel. Yang Mun steps from the shadows, blocking Eric's blade with his own. "You should have." Suddenly, the rope far away on the upper floors. Whoosh. A weapon slices the air, dropping Shinu guards in a blink. As the bodies suspicious Wookin hears Tae-Ha, vice president, with the escape. As they rush the furthermore, a grim he revealed finally vice pre. He swore, but Tae-Ha. Meanwhile, the new president scoffed, mocking that he couldn't even threaten a pay cut because the man had absolutely nothing left to lose. Their Cheon-jin without the assistant watched as Cheon-jin clutched the keys like a lifeline, declaring his triumph. He turned to Jun-woo, eager to inspect the president's legendary office. However, the president Jun-woo, his first command, his blood elsewhere. He roared, with a bone. He revealed steel clashed again, but the black, broken, the man Jun-woo had confused. He posed the under that. After a long, the master, but then, reality snapped back instantly. The memory of Jun's warning pierced him like a blade. Those who cower before a wall are destined to fall into despair. He froze. Chaos erupted. Jong-kwon screamed for cover as a heavy machine gun roared to life. A tripod-mounted nightmare unleashed a hail of lead at the intruders. The gunner cackled maniacally, mocking his own men. How useless could they be, failing to stop a few thugs armed only with knives? Suddenly, a massive shadow swallowed one of the attackers. The poor soul looked up, eyes wide with terror, completely defenseless against the titan above. Asterisk crunch, asterisk Pio One-ho crushed the man beneath his boot like an insect. In his hands, dual machine guns promised absolute destruction. He roared his title for all to hear, Vice President of Security, the Mad Tiger. He grinned savagely. Nobody was getting a vacation today. Bullets sprayed everywhere. Friend and foe alike were mowed down by his reckless fire. Huddled in cover, Jong-kwon questioned the lunatic's sanity. Was he drunk on the battlefield? Even his allies weren't safe. Eric hanged up for his life as the gunman whined about his workload, spraying death in every direction. From the shadows, Azra watched in horror. That was the Mad Tiger, all right. The rumors of his insanity weren't just stories, they were warnings. It made no sense. How could Jun-woo appoint a rabid beast like this as the vice president of security? It was madness. Even the enemy was baffled. Amidst the gunfire, the leader of Group 2 shouted out the question on everyone's mind. Had Jun-woo finally gone senile? Meanwhile, in a blood-soaked hallway, Tae-Ha moved like a ghost. His blade found its mark, sinking deep into a guard's back. He called out to Vice President Yang. They were close to the target, but the resistance was insane. He never expected Shinwoo to command such heavy firepower. The vice president grimaced. The Yang Mudi military project was supposed to be dead, but Pyongyang had kept it alive in the shadows, waiting for this moment. Tae-Ha asked about the security chief, and the answer was chilling. Music, that man. He isn't human. He is a beast. They had to move fast. Tae-Ha realized the trap too late. All security forces were flooding the first floor. They were being herded like cattle to the slaughter. A phone cut through the noise. He snatched it up, barking his name into the receiver. It was Gray. Hearing the cacophony of war in the background, he demanded their location immediately. "Don't come here," T shouted, eyeing the carnage in the hallway. "It's a death trap." But Gray was unfazed. His spy had already paved the way. Back in the lobby, Azra strolled through the chaos. He hummed a cheerful tune, completely at odds with the violence around him. A wicked grin spread across his face. "Perfect timing," he whispered, slamming his hand onto the door release button. The glass doors slid open with a hiss. He peeked outside, eyes gleaming. His reinforcements were ready. Security panicked, screaming to block the exit. But before they could move, Pio One-ho plowed through them, knocking Azra's men to the dirt. The Mad Tiger sneered at the fallen men. "Leaving so soon? You need to give a month's notice before you quit, you weaklings." His opponent looked up, bloodied but defiant. "We aren't quitting." But it seems the Mad Tiger forgot to mention a few tiny details. Pio tilted his head, confused. Then he heard it, the roar of an engine, getting louder and louder. Asterisk crash, asterisk a blue van shattered the entrance, plowing straight into the giant. The impact launched Pio One-ho backward, sending him tumbling down the escalator. The driver's door kicked open. A man stepped out, weapon in hand, dusting himself off. "I swore I'd never set foot in this hellhole again." It was Gwang-su, the former co-president of security. He surveyed the chaos with cold eyes. "Nothing has changed here. Still a mess." Azra clapped slowly. Impeccable timing. "Truly." Gwang-su just grunted. "Did you plan this dramatic entrance?" Knife gleaming in his grip, Gwang-su smirked. "Who plans a reunion tour at a company that already kicked him to the curb?" The security team hesitated. Who was this? A new enemy? A mercenary? The confusion bought them precious seconds. Even Jong-kwon didn't recognize the newcomer. But the pause was short-lived. The heavy machine gun swiveled, locking onto the blue van. Lead rain resumed, Gwang-su behind a couch. Bullets chewing up the floor exactly where he had stood a second ago. Pio One-ho rose from the debris, shaking off the hit. He squinted at the intruder. "I knew it. My former boss, fired for betting on the wrong horse." The visitor corrected him calmly from behind cover. "I prefer the legalist who resigned." "Get your facts straight." The revelation hit Yao and Mun like a physical blow. That man, it was really him. Gwang-soo? Realization dawned. This was the legend himself. The architect who built this entire building's security system alongside Jun-woo. Suddenly, Lua Kim and his squad strode into the lobby. What a mess, he scoffed, eyeing the destruction. You guys really know how to throw a party. One of the men turned to Azra. Is the control room secure? But Azra ignored him, glaring at the newcomers. Who are these brats? Gwang-soo cut in. Relax. They're with us. One is a top-tier data broker. He gestured to the other, and that one, trained to be a successor of the Yen family. Azra's jaw dropped. The stakes just went through the roof. Lua Kim pointed downward. Control room is in the basement. The leader of Group 2 grinned, checking his weapon. I know the way. Let's finish this. Watching the scene unfold, Pyong-won-ho sneered, demanding to know where these rookies came from before ordering his men to slaughter them all. The security team raised their weapons instantly, but Jong-gu moved like a phantom, seizing a guard's wrist before the trigger could be pulled. With a masterful shove, he corrected the man's amateur stance, coldly warning that such a weak grip could never control the recoil. A split second later, his fist connected with another guard's jaw, his voice booming for them to hurry as the target was within reach. It wasn't just a fight, it was a brutal lesson. As Jong-gu systematically dismantled the guards while criticizing their sloppy posture and fatal errors, in the blink of an eye, the elite security team was reduced to groaning bodies scattered across the lobby floor. Cracking his neck, Jong-gu scoffed at the carnage, remarking that whoever trained these fools had done a pathetic job. Witnessing the domination, Kang realized the danger was real and ordered a full assault. Just as Pyong-won-ho's weapon clicked empty in a twist of fate, seizing the opening, Jong-gu launched himself like a cannonball directly at one of the opposing mercenaries. He locked the caught in the moment amidst Jong-gu, the veteran. Despite his skill, the Mad Tiger's blade found its mark, drawing first blood from Jong-gu's arm. The leader of Jong-gu, Ozer, the former, however, Jong-gu, his expression, Ozer, the revelation dropped like a bomb. Ozer whispered that Pyong-won-ho was the mastermind behind that bloodbath, leaving the veteran stunned. The truth was back in the dancing. He laughed as their wept the impact staring at the rising. The scene shifts to the scorching heat of the past, deep within a terrorist camp in the Middle East. Through the government, suddenly chaos erupted as the leader's partners seized command, demanding 50 million for the 15 remaining lives. This night, standing in the shadows of the negotiation room was the Red Team Special Forces unit, and among them stood a young Pyong-won-ho. Panics, yet but in the back, Pyong-won, but the aftermath was a slaughter. Hostages, terrorists, negotiators, everyone was found dead. Everyone, except for a single member of the Red Team. To make 6 months, but pieces, his arrogant, the leader, the moment, the mad, with a blur of motion, Jun-woo seized his opponent by the neck. He wasn't just fighting, he was dissecting the man's capabilities in real time. The Mad Tiger was stunned. He stared at the monster before him, realizing Jun-woo's breathing hadn't even changed rhythm after such a clash. Jun-woo's voice was calm, almost bored. He asked why Pyong-won had deliberately sabotaged the negotiation. The question left the man confused amidst the rubble. The leader continued, pointing out that if the goal was simply the 20 million, he could have stolen the cash long before the talks even started. The Mad Tiger frowned, not understanding the game. He justified his slaughter, claiming he simply couldn't stomach the pathetic way those clowns negotiated. He let out a dark laugh, calling them fools. They actually believed that money could solve the world's problems. He claimed he had done Korea a favor by saving them from becoming a global laughingstock. Jun-woo listened to the twisted logic, a slight smile forming on his lips. That was the answer he wanted. With a sharp gesture, Jun-woo declared his true purpose. In that case, you're hired. The scene shifts back to the present reality. Tae-Ha and his companions stood in the hallway, surrounded by the cold bodies of the guards. Vice President Yang broke the silence. He explained that when the late President Seok-jin first brought Jun-woo to Cheon-woo, his loyalty was absolute. But he continued, his voice darkening, everything changed 18 years ago. Roughly a year before the tragedy on the young master's yacht. Tae-Ha frowned, confused. He asked for the truth of what happened back then. The vice president admitted that the full details remained a mystery. However, he revealed that the late president had often confided in him. He was torn, struggling with a shadowy offer to join the council. In a flashback, President Seok-jin recalled the council's approach. They wanted him in, but he questioned the decision, wary of the snakes within their ranks. At the time, the vice president had given him sound advice, refused the offer. He warned that there was nothing to gain from stepping into the cesspool of corruption. That defined that era. Back in the present, he explained the turning point. While the president traveled, rumors began to swirl about his frequent visits to Cheon-woo security. Visits everyone assumed were just business. Then came the nightmare. A year later, the yacht incident occurred. Suspiciously, it happened at the exact moment Jong-woo, the personal bodyguard, was absent. Woo-jin finished the story by quoting Jong-woo's twisted philosophy. Only the few with true power are fit to rule over the weak. He dropped the final bombshell. Cheon-woo security once hosted a brutal, secret unit, a gladiator pit where groups competed to become Jong-woo's successor. Tae-Ha's eyes widened. He realized the connection. This was the origin of the assassin Nameless. It meant Deok-Il was the one who survived the slaughter to become the successor. Woo-jin revealed his own scars. He and the other black team leaders were the rejects of that unit, discarded overseas like broken tools. He assured Tae-Ha that they knew the real Jong-woo. To the outside world, he looked like a dedicated mentor and protector. That mentor had broken them down and rebuilt them, training them to their physical and mental limits. Through this torture, he earned the fanatical loyalty of the entire security unit. It was a private army that not even the president could control. Their faith in him was blind and deep. But Woo-jin spat out the bitter truth. Jong-woo never saw them as human beings. To him, the perspective shift. He clarified the revelation. Woo-jin, however, the beast has a cruel nature. If the offspring is weak, or if it fails, the beast will snap its neck without a shred of mercy. After absorbing the heavy truth, Tae-Ha paused on the stairs. He looked back at his group, his resolve hardening. He turned to Vice President. He blocked the tragic memory of his parents flashed through his mind, reinforcing the ironclad rule that abandoning his people was never an option. With the image, his voice radiating, "Hey, if you want to," the scene she pulls him into a desperate embrace, begging to switch schools, her voice trembling with fear over what his father might do if he found out. She cries, "Tae-Ha." He looks the man with standing before. He reveals the big ignore. He continued the revelation. Big clench. Tae-Ha cuts him off sharply, declaring, "It is now or never." Big grabs him by the collar, desperate, shouting that Jeon-su has reigned for decades and nearly killed Tae-Ha at the annex. He admits that Tae-Ha places his hands firmly on Bui's trembling shoulders, his grip like iron. He asks, Bi stares at. He vows they will hold the line and begs him to return alive. Tae-Ha turns, his gaze fixed on the path ahead, and sprints up the stairs toward his destiny. Bi turns, Vice President, a loyalist, an older Jeon. He mocks them. So Jeon's back on the. He reveals that when the young master was in 3rd grade, a 6th grade bully extorted him for cash. Realized the more time he stood in that circle every single day, shouting a challenge to the 6th grade bully for a fair one-on-one duel. Bass instead, the vice steals a memory. Even his Tai's answer is back in the Tai's voice. Jeon's ledger. He sprints to ledger. Jeon-su doesn't flinch. As Tai strikes, the security chief intercepts the attack effortlessly, catching Tai's entire face in his massive hand. I've been waiting. How can a ledger Jeon's gritting his teeth. Tai scrambles back to his feet. Jeon-su scoffs, asking if he really intends to fight. Unless you have a plan. Tai charges again, but history repeats itself. Jeon-su halts the assault instantly, crushing Tai's face in his grip once more. He hurls Jeon-su, his name, a mysterious. That's the weapon break, a technique bordering on the impossible. It requires striking the blade's weakest point with monstrous grip strength. I created that technique, the man reveals. Back in the present, Tai roars, lunging forward with his weapon raised. Jeon-su's power comes from his god-tier physique and a terrifying talent. He can copy any move he sees instantly. But that is his limit. He only uses what he knows. Snap! Jeon-su breaks Tai's blade with 2 fingers and strikes. But this time, Tae anticipates it, ducking under the lethal blow. Cheon-Su glances back, intrigued. Tae crouches, revealing a second hidden weapon. "Do you really think a spare blade will save you?" the giant asks. Another flashback. The mysterious mentor pushes a young Tae on a swing set. "You hanging in there, kid?" He mentions Tae's mother is sick with worry about the 6th grade bully. "I can step in," he offers. "Just say the word." "No," Tae refuses sharply. "But come to my school at noon. I need you to witness it," the boy says, "so you can tell my mom exactly how I won." Back in the present, Tae stands dual-wielding, defiant. Cheon-Su chuckles darkly. "Bring as many as you want. I'll shatter every single one." Tae charges in. "You dare use my master's technique on me twice?" Cheon-Su blocks the strike effortlessly. "Testing me, boy?" Bam! The direct hit sends Tae reeling. But as Cheon-Su watches, Tae recovers instantly, his hand flashing to a new blade. Slice, blood sprays. Cheon-Su stumbles back, clutching a deep gash in his shoulder. He realizes the truth. Tae's movements look reckless, but they are cold, calculated, and driven by an absolute conviction to win. Dagger dripping with blood, Tae points it at the giant. "You are the sworn enemy of my bloodline. Today, I claim my revenge." The narrative shifts. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an unbreakable spirit? Flashback to the schoolyard. The bully towers over him, scribbling filth on his desk. But the young Tae doesn't flinch. He just smirks. They meet in the circle, a 3rd grader challenging a 6th grader. Just accepting the fight was an insult to the bully's pride. The bully clenches a massive fist. His plan is simple: end this embarrassment with a single, devastating punch. The bully stepped into the circle, eyes burning with aggression. He charged straight for Tae-Ha, but the younger boy didn't flinch. He just stood there waiting. Suddenly, Tae-Ha kicked the ground. A cloud of sand exploded into the air, blinding his opponent. The aggressor slipped, losing his balance completely. It was a trap. A wooden plank had been buried beneath the sand for this exact moment. Seizing the opening, Tae-Ha launched a vicious counterattack. He didn't aim for the body. He targeted the ultimate weak point that brings any man to his knees, the nose. That single strike was enough to end the fight, but Tae-Ha wasn't finished. He gripped a jagged rock he had prepared, ready to brutally overpower his enemy. This wasn't just a fight, it was a message. He would ensure no one ever dared to bully him or insult his family ever again. Watching from the shadows, Jang-Soo observed every move with cold, calculating eyes. He reported back to Tae-Ha's parents, impressed by the boy's ruthless defense. Decades later, the music swells as Tae-Ha lifts his gaze from the floor. Jang-Soo strikes. His blade flashes through the air, slicing clean through a solid marble pillar. The steel cut through the stone as if it were wet paper. But the terrifying part wasn't the strength, it was the weapon. The blade showed no wear, retaining its deadly edge. The young master had skills, sure, but the sharpness of Jang-Soo's weapon was in a league of its own. "You aim too low," Jang-Soo sneered, grabbing Tae-Ha and twisting him toward the ground. Tae-Ha looked up, pain etched on his face. But he wasn't done yet. He braced himself and hooked his leg around Jang-Soo's ankle. A classic Aikido trip technique. Jang-Soo recovered instantly, advancing again. "I remember when you were just a brat," he taunted. But Tae-Ha blocked the incoming kick with perfect form. Jang-Soo's eyes narrowed. He recognized that stance immediately. It was the Korean martial art, Kang Soo-do. Meticulous planning, patience, determination. Jang-Soo laughed, recalling the school fight. "That day is etched in my mind. You secured your victory with a trap." He glared at the boy. "Is that your strategy against me? A single blade?" Suddenly, a second weapon materialized on Tae-Ha's back. Jang-Soo looked unimpressed. 17 years of planning, and this is all you have to show for it? "Did you think a little taste of the underworld made you a king?" he mocked. "Did you really believe this level of strength would be enough to kill me?" Asterisk boom, asterisk Jang-Soo's punch shattered the stone pillar next to Tae-Ha's head. "Is this enough to defeat me?" The impact sent Tae-Ha flying violently against the wall. Jang-Soo turned his back, arrogant and assured, but suddenly spikes erupted from the darkness. Caught off guard, Jang-Soo spun around, shock written on his face. When did he set this up? Lying battered on the floor, Tae-Ha smirked. That's right. Every now and then, you meet someone like that. People with strength, skill, and talent, he wheezed. The ones we call God's favorites. The memory shifts. A younger Tae-Ha stands before his mentor, calling himself a prodigy. Can I win? He asks, even against the monsters in a league of their own. Regina Salerno, the deadly underboss, smiled down at him. You can, because you are my pupil. What are you doing? Get up, Regina barked as Tae-Ha struggled to find his footing. Do you plan on napping on the ground during a real death match? She scoffed. Tae-Ha rose, panting. Do I really have a chance training like this? Regina gave a mysterious smile. He pressed her again about the fighters who possessed godlike talent. Asterisk wham, asterisk she swung a massive hammer, sending him flying across the clearing and crashing into a tree. You can't win if all you do is take a beating, she warned. Tae-Ha groaned, eyeing the weapon. Is that toy hammer made of steel? Solid steel, she winked. Night fell over the forest, the training continuing under the moonlight. Sitting by the fire, Regina broke it down. You have exceptional fast-twitch muscle fibers. Tae-Ha blinked. Fast-twitch. Muscles are divided, she explained. Red fibers are slow-twitch. They are built for endurance. But white fibers fast-twitch are made for explosions. Short bursts of incredible energy, like a sprinter. Regina pointed at him. With your long legs and white fiber dominance, speed isn't just an option. It's your ultimate weapon. We knew that, Tae-Ha replied, gripping his knives. That's why we chose blades. But speed alone isn't enough to survive in this world. Doubts crept into his voice. Even if I'm faster than most, wouldn't I just be a joke to a monster at your level? He grabbed his shirt, frustration boiling over. I'm still not good enough. I can't go back to Korea like this. I have zero intel on Jang-Soo, he shouted, the president's bodyguard. No one knows his techniques. No one knows his training. The only thing we know is that he is undefeated. Tae-Ha yelled. I need more than speed to face a ghost like him. Regina sighed, scolding him. Stop calling me master. We are family. You don't need to be so formal. Call me big sis, she insisted with a predatory grin. Stop it. Tae-Ha panicked. Say the word. She laughed, charging at him with a live blade. Survival instinct took over. He sprinted away at breakneck speed and dove straight into the freezing river to escape her slash. Dragging himself out of the water, he shivered. Did you really mean to stab me? Regina just watched from the bank, a satisfied smirk on her face. Regina sheathes her blade, the cold steel disappearing back into her belt. Sitting in the rippling water, she looks at him with disappointment, telling him he still fails to grasp the essence of combat. She points out the fatal flaw in his instincts. He can effortlessly dodge a toy hammer, but the second it becomes a real knife, he freezes. Her voice turns ice cold as she declares that he will never evolve unless he stares death in the face and survives. From that day forward, a switch flipped inside him. He became a warrior who could only unlock his true potential when the situation turned lethal. She advises him to fight with every ounce of his soul, holding nothing back. Her voice echoes in his memory, warning him to ignore the small skirmishes. Only life or death battles will force him to transcend his limits. Ta snaps back to reality, realizing that walking the path of carnage is the only way he survives. This nightmare. On a different floor, a bald fighter grins, telling his opponent it is the end of the line. Suddenly, a devastating fist smashes into his face, silencing his taunt. The bald man stumbles back, reeling from the sheer force of the impact. His adversary wastes no time, winding up for another crushing assault. A barrage of heavy blows rains down. The attacker's fists fly like pistons, bruising and battering the bald man's face in a brutal clash of endurance. The bald man can barely react, his defenses crumbling under the overwhelming power. With a final roar of denial, he is launched through the air and slammed violently against the wall. His opponent turns, shouting for the boss. The superior walks over calmly, asking if he is injured, to which the fighter confirms he is still standing. The boss analyzes the enemy, noting that while their opponent is a brute with primitive techniques, his raw strength and durability are nothing short of monstrous. The bald man spits blood, retorting that he is also a brute made of pure muscle. He then bellows into his comms, demanding to know where the Jong-mu division is hiding. A crackling voice replies that the containment barrier has trapped them, cutting off their advance. The communicator buzzes with urgent calls for Gwang-su. Inside the control room, a woman reports that they have successfully seized the location. She adds a crucial detail. They have lowered the security barriers to block the armed forces. Descending from the 8th floor, Gwang-su sighs in relief, but the tension in the air remains thick as he demands the young master's location. The operator asks for a second, querying her colleague about his coordinates. Confusion colors her voice as she wonders why he would be engaging an old white-haired man alone on the 11th floor. Ledger freezes, questioning the insanity of the report. The young master is fighting Jun-su by himself. The woman in the control room asks who the captain is, telling them to stay calm, revealing that he has already moved out to rescue the young master. The operator tries to describe the captain, mentioning his distinctive mustache. Her gaze then shifts to the security monitors, and her blood runs cold. On one of the high-definition screens, a woman is bound and suspended in the air. The operator stares in horror, barely able to process the sight. She whispers the prisoner's name, Lady Heron. Over the communicator, she desperately asks if Heron can hear her voice. Inside the cell, the prisoner stirs. The operator hears the faint, weak voice of the captive asking who is speaking. The operator Heron's Suri quickly. Suddenly, he can. Lady, she drops a terrifying revelation. The creature Jun-su prepared as his ultimate trump card has already been unleashed and is on its way. The operator, in a chaotic ledger, screams at Gwang-su, outraged that the young master is dueling Jun-su alone, arguing that this suicide mission ruins their entire plan. He states a soldier shouts a warning of an ambush from the rear. Gwang-su blurs into motion, his blade flashing as he neutralizes the attackers in a heartbeat. He struck Ledger and old Gwang-su, the veteran, the cold. Another figure, Gwang-yu, appears from the shadows, demanding to know why reinforcements took so long to arrive. One of the Jong-gu. Ledger spots Vu barks and Ezra doesn't. Meanwhile, Tae-Ha, a scoff escapes his lips. Disappointment washes over him. A tiny kitchenette, rotting furniture. Is this the throne of a king? He eyes the dispatch schedule pinned to the wall. Was this their way of staying grounded? A pathetic reminder of their days in the construction dirt? He slumps into his bot. The guards, elsewhere, a subordinate, back in the body. Impossible. He reaches. Ever seen an antique the body? Tae-Ha, he answers his own riddle. Nothing. We just carve up the country with for other vultures. A stalemate. The body. To rule is first. Ambition. I will flash. Jang-su. They ousted the Tae-Ha. He begins to. The bodyguard stares, the terrifying realization finally sinking in. This isn't politics. It's a coup. Jun-woo was a young. Tae-Ha charges. Jang-su moves like present day. Jang-su closes his eyes. In the memory. It is not learned. It is innate. A talent I cannot see. A strike I cannot block. The weapons, but my instinct never lies. He slams Tae-Ha into the concrete, forcing him to land on his feet, bones rattling. Jang-su, he breaks the silence. Tao Jansu, the master, my hands still work. Tao taunts, cold and focused. He launches a fresh assault, but Jansu intercepts him with a precise, calculated block. It doesn't matter how many times he is repelled. The young challenger presses forward, crashing against the master like an unstoppable wave. Jansu shift. Tao hits the. Tao begins to list the master's arsenal: Aikido, Kung Fu, Judo, Muay Thai. He names them as if reading a boring grocery list. He acknowledges Jansu's perfection in these arts. But Tao interrupts, his voice dropping an octave. I possess something you don't. The scene shifts to the neon-lit skyline. Tao reveals his own path to stand here tonight. He had to hunt down and crush every single master of those very disciplines. A dagger spins high into the air, defying gravity. Tao scoffs at the decades Jansu wasted on theory and form. His hands snap. It wasn't an accident. A memory flashes Jansu's own voice teaching a student. Never show emotion. Wait for the breath of danger to kiss your skin. In the zero impact, the master is but on screen. White balloons painted the sky in celebration. But in Jansu's hometown, the festive anthem was crushed by the roar of bulldozers. Merciless steel shovels tore through the neighborhood, turning homes into graveyards of rubble. They called it urban renewal. In reality, greedy developers descended like vultures to pick the land clean. A community. Jansu's grief threatened. Suyeon was. She was there. When she tried, he became a machine, delivering newspapers in the freezing dawn, running food deliveries late into the black of night. Exhausted, she believed. Night after. For Jansu, months passed. The exams were finally over. Jansu spent his meager savings on a celebration cake, his heart bursting with hope. But as he turned, a neighbor crashed into him, screaming in terror. The thugs had returned. They set the world on fire and vanished into the night. "It started at your house," she screamed. The cake hit the ground. Jansu didn't think. He sprinted toward the flames. He arrived beside. He was just. But the flames had taken too much. She was gone. Jansu collapsed, cradling his sister's lifeless body against his chest. The tragedy wasn't just the fire. The truth cut deeper. He knew. He knew the thugs had been tormenting her while he was working. He knew she had cried alone in the dark, surviving only on sheer willpower, hiding her pain to protect his dreams. His sister had achieved the impossible, scoring high enough on the entrance exam to secure a place at the prestigious Seoul National University. But the very next day, chaos erupted. When the thugs returned backed by riot police, a single man charged into the fray, unleashing a one-man war that left the streets stained with blood. That same night, the sky turned red. 3 real estate offices and a landlord were consumed by flames, leaving only ashes and corpses behind. Desperate to protect the nation's image for the upcoming Olympic glory, the government buried the truth, erasing the perpetrator's identity from existence. Resigned to his grim fate, the young man sat in the cold silence of an interrogation room, staring across the table at a mysterious woman. Breaking the silence, she noted his terrifying potential. He had neutralized an entire squad without formal training and walked away without a single scratch. When he coldly asked for her identity, a smile played on her lips. She introduced herself simply as his savior, the only thing standing between him and execution. Jang-Soo scoffed, asking if she was a relative of the victims seeking revenge. He looked her dead in the eye and told her to do whatever she pleased. He had nothing. The woman, seeing the rage, she revealed for 10. This was Ordo Nox, a legendary syndicate of master assassins, feared as one of the most dangerous forces on the planet. He returned to Korea on one condition: he would never leave again. He wiped his alias, burned his records, and became a ghost once more. A decade had passed, yet the fire in his heart still burned. He had returned for only one reason: to hunt down the answers he was denied. He finally a memory. He bypassed the skyscrapers and entered the chairman. Inside, the time recognized. As Tae-Ha turned to beg for forgiveness, Jang-Soo seized him by the collar. That was when he saw a hideous burn scar covering the man's back, triggering a memory of a weeping boy at the fire. Young Tae-Ha, he apologized. Tae-Ha explained, but through sobs, Jang-Soo, Tae-Ha, Jang-Soo, that pen was. Later, before the man, after with ice in. Moments later, suddenly, he sensed a presence and turned his head. A new figure stepped into the room, drawn by the symphony of destruction. The stranger scanned the carnage, remarking with a dark smile that it was a surprise to find a real fighter here. The air grew heavy as the newcomer turned to face him. The real battle was about to begin. Jang-Soo, a smirk in a flash. It was the first time their duel for the first. Deok-Il, but the man in the insane. When he told he questioned. It was Deok-Il, his subordinate, and since after carrying out Jang-Soo, Deok-Il, as the years passed, he not only and one of his the memory of his sister, lost in the tragic reconstruction incident of the Insang district, likely still haunted his every waking moment. Concern only he didn't later. With a weary Jang-Soo, the chairman, he declared true to his, but even the chairman, Soo-hyuk, was the only son who resembled his father in spirit and skill, and his own son showed signs of the same brilliance. Their philosophy remained simple. They had stopped the president with their strength, and they dared anyone to question their power. Unfortunately, the chairman's decision was hasty. Soo-hyuk had no way of controlling the beast that was Cheon-woo as it began to rot from the inside. Then, the other son approached Jang-Soo, a treacherous offer hanging in the air. He claimed Jang-Soo offers. He adds a crucial detail: the invitation came directly from the Osung faction. Even more unsettling, their boss seems to know exactly who he is. The scene cuts to a sun-drenched garden. Seo-yup approaches with a heavy stride. He locks eyes with Jang-su. He asks the question hanging in the air, "Is there a problem?" Jang-su delivers, Seo, understanding fine, but even if the man, it was a truth everyone knew. No one walked the earth who could lead the company like Seok-ho did. His son, that weakness he had to be. Suddenly, Jang-su explodes into motion. A devastating kick sends the young man flying. Tae-Ha slams against the wall with bone-rattling force. The impact is absolute. Jang-su realized speed was Jang-su, the young Jang-su. He didn't make Gu-ho the chairman because he was worthy. It was a stalling tactic. He needed to buy time until Cheon-gu's true successor could be found, until someone with power surpassing his own finally emerged. Tae-Ha's injuries scream in protest. His movements are slowing down. The crushing weight of the battle presses down on him, but he forces the pain into the background. This is the moment he has lived for. It is time to slaughter his family's sworn enemy with his own two hands. Tae-Ha lunges forward with a roar. Jang-su watches him come, and a dark laugh escapes his lips. A memory surfaces. Gu-ho's eldest son, Chang, confronts Jang-su. He demands to know why he betrayed his grandfather. It clearly wasn't for mere power. Chang asks if a seat on the board is truly enough. He whispers a seductive suggestion. Together, they could crush every enemy in their path. Chang was cunning, a snake who had already betrayed his own flesh and blood. Yet, Jang-su found him intriguing. He saw a hunger in Chang's eyes, an ambition that a simple board seat could never satisfy. Chang's bold proposal sparked a question. Could this man be the necessary evil Jin-Gu needed? Chang then slides a laptop across the table. He claims to have found something interesting. The yacht in, he suggests, he replied, back in the present, Jang-su accepts his fate. He will be defeated soon. He launches a precise, high-speed kick. Tae-Ha, in a flashback, Chang warns that Tae-Ha has returned as a lethal agent. He proposes a scheme. Use the boy to take down his father, then frame him for the carnage. And on the Jang-su, Tae-Ha, he was fueled by, now, he achieved a child inheriting Seok-ho's brilliance, has walked the same thorny path. With their end finally here, Cheon-woo's legacy is made whole. The final only the day he has to, if he knew his own weakness is the sin, but if he was blindsided, the fault lies in his complacency. At the summit, Tae-Ha raises a single fountain pen. He asks the room if they recognize the symbol. Whoever holds the chairman's pen rules the empire. There was, even without, so high, he throws down the gauntlet, challenging him to prove what kind of future he actually holds for the company. Jang-su is finished. His body crumbles to the floor. In the center of the grand hall, his lifeless eyes stare eternally into the void. Tae-Ha wheezes that enemies are likely waiting below, but his wounds are critical. Meanwhile, the lobby has turned into a war zone. Heavily armed soldiers clashing violently with Gwang-su's forces. He curses the unfair advantage of their gear. Amidst the chaos, Bui checks his watch. Time is running out. Gui barks the order to retreat. A subordinate panics, warning that the young master hasn't returned, but Gui cuts him off. It's too late. Bui declares that 11 minutes have passed since the deadline. They have to prioritize saving the survivors they have left. Seeing them fall back, Gwang-yu commands his squad to charge. Suddenly, the elevator doors slide open. Ledger steps out from the darkness. Heavily wounded, Tae-Ha senses a presence. He tries to force his broken body to move, but a shadow already looms over him. He looks up, stammering to ask who stands before him. One of Gu's men grabs Wooey, insisting they hold the line, but a voice bellows for it to stop. Enough. Bui screams that the mission is a failure. They were defeated the moment Jang-su failed to walk through those doors. A red-haired man hauls Ledger up, cursing the absolute chaos unfolding around them. We is shocked to see Wooey, asking when he arrived. Ledger cries out for assistance, claiming he witnessed the entire battle from start to finish. He drops the bombshell to the crowd. Jun-woo has fallen. Tae-Ha is the one who took him down. Gui and Wooey freeze at the news. Even Gwang-yu can't believe his ears. A cry of absolute despair erupts from Gu's men as they realize their master is gone. Back in the confrontation hall, Tae-Ha remains the last man standing. Ledger observes from a distance. watching Jan-Su's unblinking form on the floor. Ledger looks he smooth. Ledger down in the lobby. Suri rallies the team near a van. "We have to move. Now." She asks if he explains, but he slams the van door shut. He turns to face the encroaching danger alone, roaring for them to leave and entrusting Cheon-Su to their care. The man carrying Ledger shouts for everyone to run. A flashback flickers Bowie being welcomed by a man, all thanks to Jan-Su's recommendation. By recall, as they speed away, panic sets in. One man asks if they'll actually make it. They're going to be caught in seconds. Suddenly, "Sir, the man, it's Jap." Meanwhile, in a high-rise office, Azra hangs up the phone. Understood. She turns to the boss with the confirmation. "It's true. Ta." Meanwhile, the camera pans to the lying motion. A man in a sharp. The suit urges them. He J-Pill shoot. Changing the doctor flat outside. J-Pill inform. But before he. Soo-hyuk inside. The realization. It all makes sense now. His terrifying eloquence and masterclass negotiation skills. Those traits are carved into his very DNA. The situation. He defeated Jang-Soo right in the heart of Cheon-woo territory. Tae-Ha isn't just a martial arts prodigy. He possesses a terrifying intellect. If a man a dark thought crossed back at he argued. Suddenly, a fist connects with his jaw. Soo-hyuk lowers his hand, eyes blazing. He reminds them they are in the gray zone. Expendable pawns that will be discarded the second they lose their value. The punch. He then raises a small flash drive, the plastic glinting in the dim light. He asks if they know what this weapon is. It's the security footage from the control room of Cheon-woo's first basement level. This tiny, a smirk plays inside the man. "This is Min Guang-ho." His tone shifts to desperation. He begs for help, insisting that the young master must take over as chairman to save the legacy. Chang-ho scoffs, looking down at him. He asks if this is really the feared Guang-ho he used to know, or if age has finally made him senile. He adds a sharp condition. If Guang-ho is here to beg, he should pay up first. He demands compensation for pitcher and batter. Guang-ho offers 300 million for each, plus $1 billion for the commission fee. But Chang-ho isn't interested. He dismissively tells the old man to get lost, saying he'd rather take a nap than listen to this. Guang-ho plays his final card. He offers to help remove Chang-ho's own chairman, reminding the thug that he still covets the top seat of the Dubong Association. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the train shifts instantly. The passengers around them stand up. They are Guang-ho's hidden enforcers, ready for a bloodbath. Guang-ho smiles coldly, asking Chang-ho not to say such scary things. Chang-ho simply lowers his glasses, unfazed, and questions where this sudden burst of bravery is coming from. The scene shifts to the dark, rural silence of North Gyeongsang Province. Under the moonlight, a young woman with glasses adjusts her gear, preparing for the hunt. Suspended in the air by razor-thin wires, a board member of the lethal Yin clan wonders aloud who would have the audacity to track her down. Perched on the roof above, Baek Chin-yin, the clan's chief, looks down with a predatory grin. Her dear former disciple has returned to pay the price for her past sins. The suspended prisoner warned them to stop wasting time and unlock the door. This interrogation was taking place deep within the Garden of War, the sacred training grounds of the Yin clan. A calm voice cut through the tension, offering a cup of tea brewed from Takujian leaves, harvested during the first spring thaw in Hadong to ensure the ultimate flavor. Baek Hyang-yin swirled her cup, assuring the captive that after a single sip, Yun Suri would never be able to stomach cheap street coffee again. But Yun Suri, the former head of the Yeburi Sang, snapped back that there was no time for pleasantries. She needed an audience with the clan leader immediately, just as Ms. Hai Ryan had commanded. Hai Ryan's specific instructions echoed in her mind. However, the Yin clan chief, Baek Hyang-yin, scoffed at the absurdity that a third-rank officer like Hai Ryan could ever be defeated and captured by someone like Cheon-Su. Leaning back, the chief mused that perhaps Hai Ryan had simply been careless. She speculated that the officer must have left her blade behind due to the board meeting, noting that the young woman was practically invalid without a sword in her hand. Suri retorted cold and sharp, stating she wouldn't know the truth if she only watched the world through the grain of a control room camera. Baek Hyang-yin set her porcelain cup down with a clatter. dismissing the mission to save a man named Tae-Ha as utterly foolish. A young male officer stepped forward, declaring he would hear the message first to judge its worth before bothering the clan leader. Ordering the prisoner to speak, Suri cut him off instantly, reiterating that her orders were absolute. She must speak personally with the chief. The officer's eyes narrowed, warning her that his patience for games had run out. He lectured her with a sneer, explaining that if she were truly operating under Hai Ryan's command, she would know protocol dictated she report to him first. Accusing her of deceit, he demanded she drop the act and spill the truth immediately. Yun Suri stared him down in icy silence. Her mind flashed back to the moment she received her orders, asking if she truly needed to go straight to the top, and receiving a simple, terrifying yes. Hai Ryan had grabbed her shoulders, insisting the matter was of apocalyptic importance and that she must not breathe a word to anyone. Below the third rank at the main estate, she had specifically told Suri to call for Baek Jong, promising that the clan leader would emerge if she was the one summoning him. But here in the present, her attempt to pressure these subordinates was failing miserably. Realizing she had no choice, Suri exhaled and dropped the code phrase, "The shadows of Seo-yup have fallen." The officer froze, asking if Hai Ryan had truly spoken those forbidden words. Suri confirmed it with a steel gaze, asking how she could possibly mistake a message so brief and yet so devastating. The realization hit the officer like a physical blow. The message meant a coup d'état was underway. He hastily agreed to inform the clan leader and dismissed her to rest. Suri remained motionless, her eyes tracking him. A sinking feeling in her gut told her that he never had any intention of letting her walk out of there. He stopped and smirked, asking if she truly believed she could leave this house forever after stepping foot inside. For over 1,000 years, this sanctuary was exclusive to the Yian bloodline. He revealed he had merely been tolerating her youthful rebellion, as it was the only excuse to keep a traitor alive. The officer gestured for her to enter, reminding her ominously that the formal address would begin at first light. Suri nodded slowly, agreeing to comply, but stated she had her own non-negotiable terms. The officer raised an eyebrow, questioning if she was joking in such a precarious position. She demanded permission to visit her father twice a week and insisted that when the time came, they must help Tae-Ha at least once, clarifying this request was not for the clan, but for her master. Deciding to humor the absurdity for a moment, he asked why she was so obsessed with saving that specific man. She replied with conviction that Tae-Ha had saved her father back in her hometown, and she wasn't shameless enough to leave a life debt unpaid. He scoffed, calling her unbearably arrogant, and asked why a high-ranking officer would ever lift a finger for the personal affairs of someone, not even in the 5th rank. Suri simply smiled, a mysterious glint in her eye, and told him to stop playing hard to get because she knew he would help her regardless. When he questioned her confidence, she looked him dead in the eye and delivered the killing blow. "Because you need me," she challenged him to deny it. After a heavy silence, he stood up abruptly, commanding her to follow him. Outside, the full moon hung like a spotlight in the ink-black sky. As they strolled through the courtyard, he remarked on how much time had passed since she last walked these grounds. In the distance, 2 disciples clashed staves in the training yard. The 2 young members spotted the chief and greeted him with enthusiastic bows. Baek Hyung-in approached them, noting the late hour and asking after their condition. With a wave of her hand, she dismissed the pleasantries and ordered them to resume their training, which they obeyed instantly. Suri watched the interaction silently. Baek Hyung-in began to explain that their scouts scoured the world for children with god-tier potential to bring into the Yian clan. These prodigies were raised in the Garden of War. If their martial prowess reigned supreme, they were sent to the Western Division to become living weapons. However, if their intellect was their sharpest blade, they began as 5th-rank officers in the Eastern Division, handling the clan's administration and diplomacy. Only those who possessed the Holy Trinity, beauty, strength, and intellect, could truly join the core clan, which was why the training began in childhood. Baek Hyung-in then turned to Suri, revealing the anomaly. Suri had joined the house at the late age of 17. She emphasized that the clan leader herself had come to retrieve Suri personally. An event that hadn't occurred in 50 years, bringing a 19-year-old outsider into the inner sanctum. Suddenly, back in the courtyard, a sickening thud echoed as one of the young trainees was struck by a devastating blow. The impact sent the boy flying backward like a ragdoll. The other clan members froze in horror, crying out for the chief in panic. Suri screamed Baek Hyang-Ian's name, demanding to know what kind of madness she was unleashing on her own people. The clan chief speaks with the weight of a mountain. Talent is not learned. It is a divine mandate. One single awakened soul is worth more than 1,000,000 common lives. Lady Beck stares her down, her eyes cold as ice. You asked if you were wanted, she sneers. To possess you, I would sacrifice every other child here without a second heartbeat. She commands Suri to gear up. The memory of this hellish training floods back. Suri nods, her face set in stone. She understands the deadly task ahead. 8 knots stand between life and death. If a single one slips, or if she hesitates for even a fraction of a second, the children will pay the ultimate price. Show me your gift remains tarnished, Beck taunts, and I might consider your terms. But Suri spits back, her eyes burning with defiance. You are a monster. Days later, the atmosphere shifts completely. We return to the warm, savory chaos of the Bauman Gukbap restaurant. Seo-yup proudly unveils his masterpiece, Panama geisha beans, floral jasmine notes, subtle acidity. It is an iced Americano, served ridiculously in a hot soup bowl with floating ice cubes. Tae-Ha's eyes snap open in sheer confusion. He wakes in a cold sweat, trying to process the absurdity of that vision. Was it a dream or a nightmare? The TV blares with urgent news. The Cheon-Su Group has a new master. Chairman Cheon-Jin is stepping up to the podium for his coronation address. Back at the table, the mood is heavy. Seo-yup leans in, searching his friend's face. How are you holding up, Tae-Ha? Like hell, he grunts, but the fire in his eyes says otherwise. Just like that, the king has returned. On screen, Cheon-Jin addresses the 110,000 members of the syndicate. Today, he booms, we stand at the precipice of a glorious evolution. He invokes the name of the legendary founder. To walk in the giant's footsteps, he lies smoothly, is a burden I accept with solemn duty. They stood like iron against the storm to build this empire, and now I shall be the fortress that protects it. He flaunts his youth as a weapon. The old ways are dead. I promise to drag this company into a golden new era, by force if necessary. Until Cheon-Su rules the global stage, we will not sleep. Terror, threats, enemies, let them come. We will never falter. Let the darkness deepen. The light of our clan is an eternal flame that no shadow can extinguish. Silence falls over the restaurant. One man mutters the truth everyone is thinking. That didn't sound like a corporate speech. That sounded like a declaration of war. Bae explains the play. With the top brass gone and Jang-su dead, he's consolidating power through fear. Tae-Ha cuts to the chase. What about Gwang-woo? Alive or dead? Tae-Ha demands. Seo-yup looks away. We are turning over every stone, but he has vanished into thin air. Find him, Tae-Ha commands, even if it is just a corpse. Seo-yup then drops a bombshell. While you were recovering, Vice Chairman Yang issued a directive. The order is absolute, to crown the young master as the true chairman. We need the board's steel backing. Without the support of the shadow rulers who control this country, the title of chairman is just an empty word. The vice chairman went to leverage his blood ties with the Dubang Association and Suri. She traveled to Changju to face the Yang clan. Tae-Ha frowns. The Yang clan. Seo-yup nods gravely. The very place where she mastered the deadly art of strings. It is a double-edged sword. She is there to negotiate an alliance, and to reveal that Cheon-Su is holding one of their own hostage. Bae chimes in with one last piece of the puzzle. Yapil from the Osung faction sent word. He wants a parley. He says he wants to share a cigar with you again. Tae-Ha processes the board, the Dubang, the Yang clan, and now Osung. The pieces are moving. But hope is a dangerous thing. He knows the road ahead is paved with blades, especially with Osung. The frame job by the enemy ran deep. Tae-Ha stands abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. I am going to see Osung. Now. Seo-yup is floored by his reckless urgency. The doctor steps in, panic in his voice. Are you insane? You are a walking glass cannon right now. One bad fall could end you. Bib blocks his path. Think, boss, it is likely a trap. The Osung faction gains nothing but blood by helping us. Tae-Ha against him. He is already nightfall. Tae-Ha, Mansuk, a snap of fingers, and the shadows come alive. Men pour out from every corner, boxing them in. The trap is sprung. Location, another step. Tae-Ha ignores the threats. He scans the two enforcers, then looks past them to the lounge door. Strong, but not enough. Through the glass, cigar smoke swirls. Someone is already inside. Tae-Ha sighs. Hold on a second. I need to teach these dogs some manners. He tightens his glove, the leather creaking. You know, he says, voice dropping an octave, I really hate people who don't know their place. Mansu stretches, looking bored. Did you hear me? His eyes bulge. A blur of motion rushes past him before his brain can even scream danger. In a flash of movement, one of Tae-Ha's enforcers clamped down on the target, pinning him with a grip like iron. The warning was cold and absolute. Move a muscle, and you'll regret it for the rest of your very short life. Mansu's eyes widened in shock. He hadn't even seen the man move. Meanwhile, Wi dragged his feet across the pavement, the scraping sound signaling that the real violence was just beginning. Jin-Gu sneered, if you want to die, so be it. He launched himself forward with explosive speed, but before his strike could land, one of Y's bodyguards stepped in, intercepting the blow with a heavy thud. With a roar, the bodyguard hurled Jin-Gu back like a ragdoll, the impact rattling his bones. I warned you, young master, the guard shouted over the chaos. I told you this was a trap. Amidst the brawl, Y's mind flashed back to Tae-Ha's command. The words echoed with the weight of destiny. Asterisk if you choose to follow me. Leave your doubts at the door and have faith, asterisk. Clarity struck him like lightning. This man, Tae-Ha, was a leader worth bleeding for. As his men moved to dismantle the remnants of the enemy faction, Wi bowed his head in silent reverence, knowing he would rejoin his master once the filth was cleared. Without looking back at the carnage, Tae-Ha turned and pushed open the heavy doors of the lounge. The air shifted instantly from the metallic scent of blood to the rich aroma of expensive leather and smoke. Inside, the mastermind was waiting. Tae-Ha fixed him with a bored stare, his voice dripping with arrogance. Don't act surprised. I told you I was coming. There was no need for that pathetic test outside. Tae-Ha scoffed, stepping further into the room. If I couldn't handle a small fry like Jang-su, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Across the room, Park Deok-Il smiled sharply and gestured to the plush sofa. Sit. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on as the man finally introduced himself. I am Park Deok-Il, he announced, his voice smooth but dangerous, the head of the Osung faction. An attendant stepped forward, offering a perfectly cut cigar. The same blend as last time, sir, he said politely, but Tae-Ha ignored the gesture. He pointed to a different one in the box, his eyes never leaving Park's. No, I'll take that one today. Tae-Ha sank into the sofa, claiming the space like a king on his throne. Kim-gil, the attendant, bowed nervously. Apologies for the noise outside, he muttered. We had to make this meeting look coincidental. Cut the crap, Tae-Ha snapped, the flame of his lighter flaring up to illuminate his sharp features. He took a long drag and exhaled a cloud of smoke. And tell your lackey to get lost. He needs a walk. Park Deok-Il stared at him for a beat, the silence stretching until it snapped. Then he threw his head back and let out a loud, amused laugh.